One day at school, Oda, Akira, and the second-year students of a Japanese high school witnessed a glowing ruin appear on the classroom floor. They were bewildered as the classroom began to shake, and a brilliant light enveloped them. They all lost consciousness for a moment and woke up in a strange place. Akira was overwhelmed and wondered where they were. He saw a tall man wearing a royal robe and a crown. The man stood up, welcomed all the students, and introduced them to his palace, explaining that they had been summoned to another world. He introduced himself as the king and the girl beside him as the princess, his daughter. The king assured everyone that their presence here was for an important reason. Akira was puzzled by the current situation, while the king continued his speech, revealing that he had brought them to this new world because a hero was needed to defeat the demon king. The other students struggled to believe that they had been summoned and could become heroes. The king explained that the world they were in was called Morrigan, consisting of 4 continents where humans, elves, beastmen, and demons lived. He ruled a nation called Retis, which had the largest human population but was currently threatened by demons. He announced that the students had been chosen as candidates for the title of hero, in the desperate hope that they could destroy the demon king to bring peace to this land. An old man with a staff stepped out from behind the king and told the students that only one of them could become the chosen hero. However, the others would also receive special powers, and they all had important roles in the fight against the demons. The old man explained that he would show them how to discover their abilities. Some students were surprised and curious about the kind of abilities the old man was talking about. He revealed that to see the details of their abilities, they needed to say the phrase "status open." Akira decided to follow the instructions and immediately said the phrase. A display screen appeared before him, showing information about his skills: health points, magic points, attack power, defense, and more. Akira realized from the screen that he was an assassin with 18 HP and 12 attack power. He wondered how his numbers compared to the others. Akira could only see his own status bar, and a classmate approached, asking if he had checked his status yet. Akira confirmed that he had, but he confessed that he didn't remember the classmate's name or the names of half the class. Akira asked the classmate about his class, and he revealed that he was a Wen mage, but not the hero. Then he asked Akira about his class, and Akira replied that he was an assassin. Hearing this, the classmate got excited and suggested calling Akira a ninja because he often disappeared during class. Akira figured that the status bars in this world were based on their experiences and characteristics from their time in Japan. He realized he had acquired skills like arithmetic and negotiation through haggling for purchases at the local market. The classmate asked Akira who he thought would become the hero, and after a moment of thought, Akira mentioned Sato Tsukasa as a potential candidate. Akira believed Tsukasa had the qualities of a hero because he was good-looking, had excellent grades, was good at sports, and was a leader in the student council. The old man then summoned all the students and presented a crystal orb on a small pillar. The old man asked the students to line up and touch the orb one by one. He explained that the orb was a magical tool, capable of scanning their abilities and displaying their status for everyone to see. Akira began to worry that the orb might reveal their abilities, as he didn't yet fully understand the gravity of the situation. The old man randomly chose a girl to start, and she agreed. Akira realized that making his abilities public could be a risk. When the girl touched the orb, a large display screen appeared, showing her stats for everyone to see. Akira was stunned to see that the girl's abilities were much weaker than his. He wondered how this was possible and realized that this situation was not in his favor. Determined to keep his abilities a secret, Akira activated his stealth skill. This was a skill assassins often use to hide their presence from normal eyes. His classmate was about to say something to Akira, but to his surprise, he could no longer see him. Confused, the classmate looked around, wondering where Akira had gone. Akira breathed a sigh of relief that his stealth skill had worked successfully. He took the opportunity to remain vigilant, just in case anything unusual happened. Now, it was Tsukasa's turn, and Akira watched closely to see if Tsukasa's stats were stronger than his, which would allow Akira to confidently reveal his own status. As Tsukasa approached the crystal orb and placed his hand on it, his classmates began to whisper, assuming Tsukasa might be the chosen hero. When Tsukasa's class was revealed to be hero, Akira noticed that Tsukasa's total stats were still significantly lower than his. This confused Akira, who wondered why he possessed power that surpassed even the heroes. The old man joyfully welcomed the hero, expressing his delight at seeing him. He explained that in their current roles, most people had a maximum attack power of 100, with even the most skilled warriors only reaching a maximum of 500. Concluding his speech, the old man assured them that with the hero by their side, they could easily defeat the Demon King without any problems. Akira began to feel uneasy and wondered what had made him so powerful. The old man then asked all the students to follow him, promising to help them prepare and equip them with the necessary items for their upcoming journey. Akira saw a surveillance camera on the ceiling and felt even more anxious, sensing that something was about to happen. Later, he found an empty room where he could rest and reflect on the situation. While thinking about the purpose of the assassin class, Akira realized he was destined to support the hero from the shadows with his negotiation skills. He also felt that the king was hiding something from all the students. Akira decided to remain hidden and stay away from the orb to avoid being discovered. He recalled that ever since the introduction, he had kept his distance from his classmates and waited for an opportunity. He noticed the room he was in hadn't been cleaned since he entered, but luckily there were no surveillance cameras inside. At night, Akira decided to leave the room to uncover the king's secret. You snuck into the armory to get new clothes and weapons, because wearing a school uniform would make you stand out too easily. After that, Akira quickly found the king, and happened to overhear a conversation between the king and Princess Maria. She said that the summoned students were unaware of the irregularities and their true purpose was unclear. The king ordered the princess to proceed with the plan and prevent the students from entering the exhibition hall. He also planned to send the knight commander to train the students the next day. After the princess left, the king went into his study to write something. Akira intended to assassinate the king, but at the last minute, he changed his mind, realizing that he didn't fully understand the king's plan yet. He decided to withdraw, a decision he would later come to regret. Meanwhile, in a forest, a young girl was running for her life, being pursued. Suddenly, an arrow struck her in the leg, causing her to fall. She realized the arrowhead was coated with a sleeping drug. As she tried to pull the arrow out, her attacker, a woman, approached and sarcastically asked why the girl was still alive. The next day, all the students gathered in the dining area for breakfast. Everyone seemed to be enjoying their meal and chatting quietly about various topics. Suddenly, Tsukasa got everyone's attention by slamming his hand on the table and standing up. He asked everyone to listen to him for a moment. Tsukasa admitted that they were all feeling confused and unable to think clearly due to the shocking event they had experienced the day before, being summoned to another world. However, Tsukasa reassured everyone that he intended to use his power to help the people of this new world. He encouraged the students, expressing his belief in their inner strength and calling on them to join him in the mission to defeat the Demon King. Tsukasa's words rallied the students' spirits and they all cheered for him in unison. However, Tsukasa silently doubted their enthusiasm, realizing they didn't know whether the king and princess were truly trustworthy. He also pondered how everyone would react upon discovering that the story of demons invading human territory might just be a lie. Despite this, the students agreed to follow Tsukasa's lead. Meanwhile, Akira breathed a sigh of relief for having activated his stealth skill beforehand, which kept him from being noticed. After breakfast, Akira briefly considered escaping the castle on his own. At the training grounds, the students were amazed by the enormous size of the place, admitting it was even larger than their school's field. A cheerful man walked up and introduced himself as Saran Mizrae, the knight commander of the Reddest Kingdom and its last line of defense. In a playful tone, he confided in his vice commander Zeal Asti that introducing himself like that was embarrassing. However, Zeal advised him that showing his true nature might cause the students to underestimate him. Commander Saran announced to the students that in 1 month's time, they would be venturing into an underground dungeon. For this reason, he promised to train them hard every day until that time came. Some students worried whether they could become strong in just 1 month. But Saran reassured them that if they didn't improve after his training, the problem was their own incompetence. This left the students feeling dejected. But Saran acknowledged their potential and believed they could overcome the training with ease. Akira and Saran's eyes met for a brief moment. Akira smiled and acted normal, but he still doubted if their eyes had truly met, since his stealth skill was active. Akira decided to leave as he had no intention of following the king's orders. Saran delegated the training to Zeal and quickly disappeared before Zeal could object. While Akira was still wandering off, he was startled to hear the commander ask where he was going. Akira stammered, trying to strike up a natural conversation, but Saran saw right through him. Akira asked how the commander could see him, and Saran revealed that he possessed a special skill called Evil Eye. It was a skill that allowed the user to see things invisible to the naked eye. Akira dropped the act and offered to accept his punishment for skipping training. However, Saran wasn't interested in punishing him or making him go back to training. He just wanted to know where Akira was headed. Akira confessed that he was going to the library. Saran reminded him that the king had forbidden access to it. But Akira still wanted to learn more about this world. Saran confirmed that Akira had been using a stealth skill, and Akira admitted it. Saran asked about Akira's skill level, and he revealed that all his skills were at level 1. Saran offered to teach Akira how to level up his skills, but Akira suspected there was a catch. Saran suggests a deal to exchange information about each other's worlds. And Akira agrees. They shake hands to seal the deal. Just then, Zeal appears and calls out to the commander. He finds Saran with Akira and scolds Saran. Because there's still a lot of work to be done, Zeal apologizes to Akira for Saran's behavior. Akira asks Zeal if he can visit the barracks some other time, and Zeal happily agrees. On their way back, Saran and Zeal realize it's been a long time since Saran smiled the way he did while talking to Akira. Saran admits it's true. Zeal asks Saran about their conversation, and Saran replies that it was just a casual chat about sharing information about their worlds. Saran tells Zeal a few things about Akira's world, like moving metal boxes, floating metal chunks, and how news spreads instantly across the globe. Saran also mentions that Akira comes from a place called Japan. Zeal recalls that the first hero also came from Japan, and theorizes that Akira might be even stronger than the first hero. Saran agrees and mentions that Akira's stealth skill is maxed out. Zeal is surprised by this information because besides the first hero, no one else has ever maxed out a skill. Saran explains that in their world, the maximum skill level is usually 9, and it's rare for anyone to get past level 7. However, those summoned from other worlds can easily surpass these levels. Saran wonders why the king isn't paying attention to Akira, and suspects that Akira used his stealth skill to avoid the ceremony the day before. He's confident the king has no idea about Akira's abilities. Saran continues to praise Akira's talent until Zeal asks if Saran plans to bring Akira to their camp. Saran replies that if Akira has realized the king's true nature, maybe they should share their thoughts with him. Saran decides to train Akira personally, not just so he can survive in the dungeon, but to help him maximize his skills. While Tsukasa is training in the courtyard, he sees Akira and expresses his dislike for him. Tsukasa reveals that they've known each other since they were kids, but Akira forgot his name when they were in middle school, even though they sat next to each other. Tsukasa mentions his own popularity, good grades, athletic ability, and decent looks, but Akira still didn't remember him, showing that Akira never paid him any mind. Tsukasa has been secretly watching Akira since they arrived in Morgan, and is unhappy with Akira's hesitation to join the group, as well as his growing closeness with Commander Saran. Tsukasa wonders why Akira won't acknowledge his presence. Princess Maria approaches and offers Tsukasa a glass of water, which he accepts with a smile. He reminds himself to stay calm because he is the hero, but resolves to become stronger to prove himself to Saran and Akira. 1 month later, after completing their training, the students march proudly toward the dungeon. The townspeople cheer for them, but Akira, wanting to avoid the attention, uses his stealth skill to go unnoticed. However, he notices a girl watching them with a cold gaze. Akira approaches her and asks why she's glaring at the heroes like that. The girl retorts coldly, asking if Akira understands the sacrifices that were made to summon them to this world. Before leaving, she suggests they'll meet again after Akira finds the answer, as she has a feeling they're destined to cross paths again. Afterward, Commander Saran, Zeal, and Akira gather for a quick briefing. Saran announces that their next destination is the Continental Dungeon. He goes on to explain to Akira that there is one dungeon on each of Morrigan's 4 continents, and each is named after its respective continent. Saran assures Akira that the knights will escort him and the other students to the dungeon, encouraging him to show off the progress he's made after a long month of training. The students bravely engage in battle with monster rats, and they successfully defeat many of them. However, due to the sheer number of rats, a few manage to break through their defensive line. In a dangerous moment, a rat lunges toward a girl, causing her to scream in panic, but Akira quickly eliminates the threat. Akira expresses his surprise to Saran, admitting he had underestimated the students' abilities. Akira recalls that they had initially progressed smoothly through the first 30 floors of the dungeon. Unfortunately, one of the students accidentally triggered a trap. causing a flood of monster rats to pour in. The students continue to fight, but the situation gradually becomes overwhelming. Akira suggests to Saran that they should retreat, and Saran agrees. He praises the students for the progress they have made so far. Saran announces that he will create a path for their escape and encourages the students to take the opportunity quickly. After chanting an incantation and using his heavenly blade skill, Saran creates a clear escape route for the students. Zeal directs the students to run toward the surface, following the path Saran opened. As they are fleeing, the students realize that there are still monsters waiting for them at the entrance to the next floor. Suddenly, Tsukasa remembered the smoke bomb that Princess Maria had given him to use in times of danger. The smoke bomb didn't explode but continuously released smoke, causing the monsters to panic and flee. Realizing he was running out of smoke bombs, Tsukasa ran ahead of the group of students and advised them to stick close and run together. Zeal and another knight combined their skills to push back more monsters. Akira was impressed by their coordination and asked Saran if the knights alone were enough to defeat the Demon King. Saran ignored the question and just instructed them to retreat. While retreating, they heard a loud roar from the floor above and rushed to check it out. They discovered a minotaur, which surprised Zeal, as such monsters usually only appeared on deeper dungeon floors. Akira tried to attack the minotaur, but his dagger shattered the moment it made contact, revealing the monster's incredible toughness. Akira approached Tsukasa to ask about the situation, and Tsukasa explained that they were just using smoke bombs to drive the monsters away, but the minotaur appeared after they used the last one. The minotaur attacked and Tsukasa tried to block its blow with a sword. But his arm ended up breaking as a result. Zeal reassured Akira that the knights would handle the minotaur and told him to take Tsukasa to a healer. Akira escorted Tsukasa, praising his courage and resilience while enduring the pain. Tsukasa responded to Akira's words by asking, "If I don't protect our classmates, who will?" Akira immediately shot back asking, "And who's going to protect you if you're trying to carry the burden of protecting everyone?" Akira emphasized that their goal wasn't just to protect others, but to use their power to defeat the Demon King. He reminded Tsukasa that their classmates had all been trained for this day and were capable of protecting themselves. Akira advised Tsukasa to prioritize taking care of his own health first. Shortly after, Tsukasa's behavior became erratic. He started mumbling and saying incoherent things. Akira quickly realized that something was wrong with Tsukasa. Akira then asked the other students if any of them had healing or exorcism skills. Two girls stepped forward, Hosoyama Shiori, a healer, and Ueno Yuki, an exorcist. Yuki wondered what being an exorcist could do to help Tsukasa, and Akira replied that he would explain later. Akira asked Shiori to heal Tsukasa's arm, and she agreed to do so immediately. Yuki asked about her role, and Akira instructed her to use her spell curse skill on Tsukasa. Spell curse is a skill that allows the user to exorcise or dispel any kind of curse or possession on another person. Yuki began to chant and perform the exorcism. At first the spell seemed to be working, but then Tsukasa's body resisted the exorcism, surprising everyone around them, as they had no idea Tsukasa had been cursed all this time. Akira noticed the knights were struggling to deal with the powerful minotaur and considered joining the fight. However, he hesitated, not wanting to leave Tsukasa alone while he was still recovering. Another classmate encouraged Akira to join the fight, assuring him that they would take care of Tsukasa. Filled with determination, Akira approached Saran and insisted on sharing important information about Tsukasa's condition. However, Saran suggested they put it off until after they defeated the minotaur. Akira explained that since his dagger was broken, he was forced to use a secret skill he had learned, regardless of whether Saran agreed or not. Saran accepted the plan and urged Akira to ensure everyone's safety once they returned to the surface. After the terrible monster was defeated, Akira and his classmates found themselves under the guidance of the brave knights as they navigated their way out of the perilous dungeon. However, their journey was not over, as there was still a long way to go before they could safely return to the castle. As they advanced through the dense forest, the commander issued a stern warning, reminding everyone not to let their guard down for even a second. Akira noticed the stark contrast between the chaos in the dungeon and the eerie silence that enveloped the forest, realizing the importance of staying vigilant in any situation. Akira reminded his companions to stay on high alert, recognizing the need to prioritize their safety. During a moment of rest, Akira decided to check his progress by looking at his status. To his astonishment, he discovered his power had skyrocketed from an initial level 1 to an impressive level 15. Not only did his overall level skyrocket, but his other attributes also saw significant improvement. Akira figured this sudden surge in power was likely a direct result of the confrontations with the formidable monsters he had bravely defeated in the dungeon. It seemed like the most logical explanation under the circumstances. Currently, Akira's stats were 3 times what they were when he first set foot in this magical world, a testament to his growth and progress. Moreover, his skills had also improved considerably. To his surprise, Akira discovered he had acquired 2 new skills, Roar and Intimidation. Recalling the commander's words about acquiring skills from defeated enemies, Akira started to connect the dots between his confrontation with the mighty Minotaur and the emergence of these new abilities. However, despite his clear progress, the whole experience felt too fast and surreal for Akira to fully grasp. Still, with his adaptable nature, Akira was confident he could easily master these new powers. As he reflected on the fate of the hero Tsukasa, Akira felt perplexed by Tsukasa's reckless actions during the Minotaur encounters. From Akira's perspective, it was unwise for Tsukasa to try and shoulder the responsibility of protecting everyone on the battlefield. Each member of the group had undergone rigorous training and should have been capable of defending themselves. Tsukasa's bravery, though thoughtless, only led to him breaking both his arms, a regrettable consequence of misplaced priorities. Akira's curiosity grew as he wondered if Tsukasa, like himself, had acquired any new skills after battling such a powerful foe. Upon returning to the safety of the castle, a sense of relief washed over everyone. To ensure no one was lost in the chaotic battle, a roll call was necessary. However, Akira longed to skip the routine headcount. He wanted to break free from anything involving the king and the castle, craving freedom and independence. As he was contemplating his escape, the commander intercepted him and presented him with a surprising gift, an extraordinary sword unlike any other weapon. It was a katana, a weapon with a glorious past, once wielded by the very first hero. The hero of that era had forged this sword with his own hands, revealing a surprising connection. The commander then told Akira that both he and the first hero hailed from the same time and place, Japan. This discovery stunned Akira as he realized the weight and significance of the ancestral sword entrusted to him by his respected mentor. Facing the terrible Minotaur, Commander Saran realized that even with his full strength, he couldn't take on the beast alone. However, fortune smiled upon him when Akira appeared just in time, prompting the commander to ask for his help. Without hesitation, Akira wholeheartedly lent his support, recognizing that the commander's knowledge and guidance were far more valuable with him alive than in the afterlife. Saran felt the same, admitting there was still so much he wanted to learn about Akira's world, including wonders like airplanes and telephones. In a heartfelt pledge, Akira promised to satisfy Saran's curiosity and explain everything he wanted to know on the condition that they both survive this battle. With a firm agreement reached, they prepared to face the challenge ahead together. The onlookers realized Saran's intention as he prepared to execute a skillful pincer attack, designed to ensure everyone's safety and evade the monster's devastating blow. They followed his command, retreating from the battlefield to maintain a safe distance. Saran summoned power from the heavens, calling for divine aid, and unleashed a brilliant bolt of lightning that struck the massive beast. Its pained roar echoed in agony, making it clear why those nearby had to keep a safe distance. Amidst the monster's roars, the onlookers could clearly see that Saran had dealt a significant blow to the mighty Minotaur. Saran then signaled to Akira, indicating it was his turn to act. With unwavering determination, Akira utilized the arcane power of shadow magic, earning Saran's admiration for his quick thinking and sharp strategy. Their combined skills formed a coordinated and calculated assault, catching the monster completely off guard. Saran directed Akira to execute a pincer attack, noticing that the surprise assault seemed to daze the monster. Even Akira could feel the pressure of the battle. This wasn't the first time he had faced such a grueling challenge. Months of arduous training had prepared him for fights just like this. However, Akira remained unfazed, relentlessly striking the monster with precise blows while using his shadow magic like invisible threads to bind it from every angle. With determination, Akira engaged in an exhausting tug of war, forcing the Minotaur to submit to his strength. Finally, the fierce battle concluded with the Minotaur's decapitation, the beast collapsing lifeless to the ground. Exhausted from overexerting his power, Akira just wanted to go home, his body completely drained. He was praised for his remarkable achievement. It was truly a job well done. The commander informed Akira that he and the first hero came from the same era, from Japan. This surprised Akira, especially when the commander revealed that the king was still unaware of this special gift, and implored Akira to keep their secret. As it turned out, the katana had actually been stolen from the castle's treasury. However, the commander justified this act as a necessary evil, since Akira's original dagger had shattered in battle. Interestingly enough, that dagger had also been a treasure stolen from the castle. Lost in thought, Akira meticulously examined his new sword. The name it bore, Kogarasu Zukuri, seemed to echo in his mind. He guessed it meant something like Little Crow Maid. This double-edged sword exuded a dark aura with its scabbard, blade, and hilt all jet black. Even the back of the blade was sharp enough to cause harm. Curiosity drove Akira to delve deeper into the sword's history. He remembered reading about it somewhere in his accumulated knowledge. To confirm, he asked the commander about its name. Surprisingly, the sword bore an inscription in a strange language that neither of them could decipher. However, the sword's true name, Yatanokami, meaning God of Blades, was clearly engraved upon it. Although the initial inscription remained a mystery to them, when a hero held the sword, a sense of nostalgia washed over them. As Akira slowly drew the blade from its sheath, additional engravings appeared, this time in a language he could understand. It turned out the first hero who wielded this extraordinary weapon had left a message for its successor. The message urged that the sword be used to its fullest potential during the most critical moments. The whole affair left Akira pondering the enigmatic nature of the first hero, wondering what kind of person he truly was, and what extraordinary feats he had accomplished. As Akira carefully returned the magical katana to its ornate scabbard, he prepared to leave. However, the commander seized the moment to ask about what Akira had alluded to earlier concerning the hero Tsukasa. Eager to share his observations, Akira revealed that Tsukasa seemed to be trapped in a cursed predicament, which his classmates had repeatedly tried to dispel to no avail. Intrigued, Akira sought the commander's insight and understanding of this troubling situation. Meanwhile, in another compelling scene, the true nature of the enchantment Tsukasa was under was revealed. It was none other than the castle's princess who had placed him under her spell. Driven by her own resolve, the princess was determined to shape Tsukasa's actions and thoughts to her will, using her influence and power with unyielding determination. The situation grew increasingly tense, setting a suspenseful tone for the unfolding story. However, the princess's twisted schemes were swiftly disrupted by Akira, who threw a wrench in her entire meticulous plan. Unaware of his identity, she questioned Akira's audacity, assuming he was one of Tsukasa's friends. She reprimanded him for daring to barge into her private chambers, implying he had no shame. Unfazed by the accusation, Akira firmly stated that she was no true lady, at least not in any honorable sense of the word. He accused her of using cunning tricks to keep the person she claimed to love, merely to satisfy her own selfish desires. Akira saw it as a disturbing display of twisted affection. In no uncertain terms, driven by his own sense of integrity, Akira made it clear that he did not approve of such distorted notions of love. Akira reached out and grabbed the crystal while the princess incessantly muttered her incantations. A chill ran down his spine as he felt the icy energy radiating from the crystal, even as he forcefully snatched it off the table. With the crystal confiscated, Akira was certain that Tsukasa would finally be freed from the spell's grip. However, before leaving, he sought an explanation from the princess herself, wanting to understand why she so loyally followed the king's orders. In response, the princess expressed her unwavering loyalty to the crown, driven by a desire to serve the king's best interests. Satisfied with her answer, Akira quietly departed, effortlessly slipping out through the window. The encounter with the princess left Akira deep in thought, wondering about the depth of her understanding, or rather her lack thereof, when it came to love. He began to question her upbringing and the reasons behind her distorted views on affection and devotion. Seeking clarity, Akira confided in the commander, who revealed a heartbreaking truth. The princess had lost her mother at birth and was raised by a king constantly lost in memories of his late queen. Without a mother's guidance, the princess was forced to navigate the complexities of love on her own. This story shed light on her unusual perception of love. Despite her difficult upbringing, the princess had grown into a strong and determined woman. Akira soon realized that confiscating a single crystal was only a minor setback. The princess had a whole stash of crystals ready to replace the one he had taken. After his meeting with the princess, Akira quietly returned to report to the commander, attempting a stealthy approach. To his bewilderment, however, the commander easily detected his presence, leaving Akira to wonder how he had so effortlessly foiled his attempt at stealth. The commander, with a knowing smile, dismissed Akira's failure as a testament to how well he knew him. The long time they had spent together had forged a deep bond, rendering Akira's efforts futile. Shifting his attention to the true purpose of Akira's presence, Akira presented the confiscated crystal to the commander, revealing that it was the commander who had provided him with the intuition that led to its confiscation. The crystal was clear proof, reinforcing their suspicions. Intrigued, the commander took the crystal, his mind filled with thoughts and contemplation. This new discovery worried Akira, and he hastily asked if the spell was truly broken. The commander reassured him, confirming that the spell had been destroyed. However, there was something unresolved in the commander's response, leaving Akira curious and eager for a clearer explanation. Unfortunately, the commander remained tight-lipped, promising to examine the crystal more closely. He dismissed Akira for the night, advising him to rest after the dramatic series of events that had unfolded in such a short time. However, Akira was skeptical about the safety of sleeping in his room within the castle walls, especially since he had angered the princess and made an enemy of her. He weighed his options, contemplating finding another safe haven for the night. Before bidding Commander Saran farewell, Akira brought up a topic he had mentioned earlier, one that still piqued his curiosity. The commander reassured him that the information Akira requested would be ready by that evening, and they would continue their conversation after a well-deserved night's rest. With this promise, Akira departed, his mind filled with unanswered questions and anticipation. As the sun slowly rose over the horizon, casting a brilliant golden glow across the landscape, Akira felt a pang of regret for not waking up sooner. The previous day's battle and the events that followed had left him exhausted, making it impossible to wake up as early as he had hoped. However, it was hardly surprising after the hardships he had endured. As he began his morning routine, Akira noticed Tsukasa, the revered hero, actively searching for him. Inwardly, Akira pondered Tsukasa's condition, wondering if he had truly been freed from the curse's clutches. It was a relief to see that Tsukasa seemed to be in good spirits. Akira decided to reveal himself and strike up a conversation, inquiring about Tsukasa's condition, concerned for his well-being. In response, Tsukasa quickly assured him that he was fine, but it was clear his health was not the most pressing concern at the moment. The air around Tsukasa radiated a sense of urgency, suggesting that something serious had happened involving Commander Saran. Unfortunately, Tsukasa couldn't disclose the details right away, leaving Akira in a state of suspense, wondering about the nature of this urgent situation. With no other choice but to follow the anxious Tsukasa, Akira hurried after him, driven by curiosity to learn the cause of the commotion. The two quickly made their way back to the castle, where a tragic sight met Akira's eyes. Commander Saran lay motionless on the floor, a fatal wound piercing his chest. The sight filled Akira with sorrow and disbelief, a wave of painful emotions washing over him. A crowd had gathered around the commander's body, confirming that he was dead. Akira couldn't comprehend why this had happened. He had lost his mentor, his friend. He desperately wanted answers, but someone in the crowd, seemingly unaffected by Akira's grief, pointed out that it was Akira's own dagger embedded in the commander's chest. Several others chimed in, claiming they had seen Akira use that very dagger in battle. This could only mean one thing. Akira was the murderer. The crowd grew agitated, convinced that Akira had murdered Commander Saran. Akira tried to calm them and explain, but they hurled insults at him, and the situation quickly spiraled out of control. Akira was confused. He was sure someone had to remember that his dagger had broken during the fight with the Minotaur. Why did no one seem to recall that? Why wasn't anyone speaking up to remind those who had forgotten? Suddenly, Akira realized something as he saw the princess and the king standing among the crowd. His classmates were probably under a spell, which was why they had so easily turned against him. If this was truly the king and princess's scheme, then clearing his name would be an incredibly difficult task. Akira walked over to the commander's body and pulled the blood-soaked dagger from his chest. He declared to the king that he would be leaving because he had now become a hindrance. The king had no intention of letting Akira leave so easily. After all, everyone believed he had killed the commander, their last line of defense. Letting such a murderer go without severe punishment would be insane. Once out of earshot, the princess whispered to Akira that he knew too much, just like the late commander. Therefore, what was coming was the price for their curiosity. The king ordered Akira's arrest, but he remained surprisingly calm, clearly one step ahead of the king's schemes. As the guards closed in, Akira activated his stealth skill and vanished. The king ordered the guards to search everywhere, checking every nook and cranny. Meanwhile, the vice commander managed to contact Akira, informing him that the commander had left a letter for him, along with something Akira had previously requested. The vice commander also wanted to know if the assassination unit, the Night Crows, was operating under the king's orders, but didn't wait for an answer. He warned Akira to be careful, as he was now a target, and advised him to leave the castle immediately for his own safety, giving him a solemn nod. Akira bid the vice commander farewell, his mind set on his escape from the castle. The request he had once made to Commander Saran now became an integral part of his meticulous plan, a testament to his foresight. From the beginning, Akira had intended to leave the castle walls, but the unfolding events, especially the king's reckless actions, only accelerated his departure. However, this untimely escape came at a steep price, the loss of someone he deeply respected, Commander Saran, who had met a tragic end. Determined and resolute, Akira vowed to avenge the commander's death, pledging to bring justice to those responsible. Even so, Akira understood that the journey ahead would be long and challenging. Despite his unwavering spirit, he was aware of his current limitations. Akira understood that he did not yet possess the strength he craved. He had to accept that the path to revenge would likely be a long one, requiring him to grow and gain more power before he could face his enemies with the might he desired. Meanwhile, the king was in a cheerful mood. He chatted with the princess, speaking of how his wish had been fulfilled. Commander Saran's death was bad news for everyone else, but to the king, Saran was just a troublesome pest who needed to be eliminated. The fact that someone as great as Saran could be killed so easily pleased the king. The princess even suggested they should reward the Night Crow's assassination unit for their efforts. Furthermore, the curse on everyone except for the hero was now complete model. Now, there was only one reason left to wage war against the Eastern Kingdom. Everything would have been a cause for celebration, if not for the existence of one stubborn man, Akira. As much as the king wanted to ignore his presence, he couldn't stop thinking about Akira, who lingered constantly in his mind. People like him often met unexpected and random ends, but just to be sure, the king ordered the Night Crows to keep an eye on Akira. 10 days had passed since Akira entered the king's dungeon. Underground, there was no certain way to tell the time, but Akira relied on his stomach to keep track, counting the number of meals he had consumed. At some point, Akira realized he had to conserve his rations, so he started grilling the meat from the monsters he encountered, which surprisingly tasted quite good. For now, he focused on the beast-like monsters, leaving the humanoid ones alone. But Akira knew that at some point he might have to stop being picky. The moments when Akira rested to eat were when he was most vulnerable, so to compensate, he always kept his stealth and threat detection skills activated. Although using these skills drained his stamina and mana, he couldn't risk letting his guard down. But that was all that was on Akira's mind right now. Now he needed to eat and prepare for the next room. The dungeon's boss room. Every 10 floors, there was always a giant boss. Before Akira now was the boss room of the 60th floor, meaning he had already faced boss monsters from the 10th to the 50th floors. The 10th floor had a goblin general, which Akira handled with ease. The 20th floor had an orc, while the 30th was an extremely tough red wolf. To pass the 40th floor, Akira had to fight the Goblin King. On the 50th floor, his greatest challenge yet, Akira faced Fenrir. Facing one Fenrir wasn't too great a challenge, but what made it difficult was that Fenrir came with 4 level 30 red wolves. To defeat them, Akira had to use his stealth skill and attack each one from behind. Akira wondered what would have become of him without his skills. This made him determined to improve his fighting technique, not just rely on his skills anymore. Ever since defeating the 50th floor boss, Akira had stuck to that resolve. He had made it to the 60th floor using only his curved sword and combat skills without relying on magic. However, Akira realized that the caliber of his opponents was getting stronger. He knew he might be forced to use his skills again sooner than he'd like. Akira was now in the boss room. Every boss room he had been in so far had doors that automatically locked when someone entered, and these doors wouldn't open until the battle was over. In other words, once Akira stepped inside, there were only two outcomes. He dies or the boss dies. These weren't conditions anyone would want to accept, but Akira was ready for the fight. As soon as Akira entered the room, the boss appeared. This was a true bloodthirsty beast. The giant monster had the head and upper body of a lion, the horns and lower body of a goat, and a venomous snake for a tail. Akira, with his limited knowledge of Greek mythology, quickly recognized the monster as a chimera. He prepared for battle, telling himself that this time it was just a one-on-one fight. It couldn't be that hard. But he was wrong. The chimera was as agile as it was strong, constantly charging at Akira with terrifying speed. And he barely managed to dodge each time. What made the fight even harder was that the chimera had no blind spots, thanks to its venomous snake tail, which was ready to strike from any direction. Akira found it difficult to sneak in an attack from behind. This wasn't a normal one-on-one fight, it was a true nightmare. Whether he was thinking about how to survive or was overwhelmed by the chimera's immense presence, Akira lost focus for a moment. This gave the chimera an opening to charge at him and slam him hard against the wall. Akira cried out in pain, feeling as if all his ribs had been broken by that attack. Literally and figuratively backed into a corner, Akira didn't need anyone to tell him it was time to stop relying solely on his curved sword. There was no way he could kill the chimera with just that weapon. To survive, Akira decided to put everything he had into this fight. In a last-ditch effort, Akira used his dark magic skill on the monster with his hands outstretched. His consciousness began to fade, and Akira felt like he was dreaming. Because Commander Saran was standing right in front of him, talking to him. Perhaps this was just a memory. Yes, he had heard the commander say this before. Commander Saran told Akira that his dark magic, however powerful, had fatal flaws. It seemed to have a mind of its own with an enormous mana cost and the risk of going out of control. That was why the commander always warned Akira to be careful when using it. Akira was always on high alert when using his dark magic. When Akira came to, all he could sense was the sweet, metallic scent of blood enveloping him. Before him, the chimera lay defeated, but his body still wouldn't move. Just as he thought, fighting a boss-level monster without using his skills was too difficult. Akira passed out again, while his dark magic automatically activated due to the severity of his injuries. The system immediately switched to recovery mode, but Akira didn't have enough mana for a full restoration. So, the remaining mana was drawn from his dark magic. It wasn't a bad skill, especially in critical situations like this. In the beginning, the creator god made the heavens, and then created the earth. Using his own body as a model, he created mortals, including humans, elves, demons, and beastmen. The creator god gave them lands to live on, work to do, and status to protect themselves. He hoped that caring for these mortals would help soothe his heart, which had been hardened by the conflict among the gods. However, as fate would have it, mortals were not so different from the gods. They craved more things like land, women, or men, and from that, wars erupted everywhere. This enraged the god Aether at the behavior of mortals, and he created monsters, then divided the world into 4 parts. The demons, who could control monsters, were despised by the other 3 races and were driven to the volcanic continent, called Volcano. The elves, in contrast, chose to live on the continent where sacred trees grew to touch the sky, their land called the Forest. The 2 remaining races, humans and beastmen, continued to fight until the very end. The humans were victorious and chose the richest of the 4 continents, called Continent. The beastmen received their own continent, called Brute. That is how the 4 races came to have their own continents to live on. However, even after the war ended, the demons did not stop their attacks against the other 3 races. To this day, the demons remain the common enemy of the other 3 races. Akira finally opened his eyes for the first time since defeating the chimera. He must have been dreaming, and again, it was about Commander Saran. He had been dreaming of Saran frequently lately, and this time, it was about the first day he met the commander. As he tried to recall the dream, Akira realized something even more astonishing. For someone who couldn't move before passing out, his body was now in perfect condition, and all his wounds were gone. Akira didn't understand what had happened, but what he was sure of was how he felt. And right now, he felt incredibly hungry. His first instinct was to find something to eat in the forest, but as he looked around, he saw the chimera's corpse still lying on the floor. Charity begins at home, or in this case, right on the dungeon floor. The chimera's meat showed no signs of spoilage, and there were no insects or maggots around its body. Akira decided to roast the chimera meat using one of Kieran Morgan's magic stones. People without magic skills could still use simple spells like lighting a fire or creating a little water. Akira used the magic stone to roast the chimera and began to eat. He had no regrets at all. The meat was so delicious he couldn't stop until he was stuffed. Now that he was full, Akira thought back on why his wounds had been healed. Could someone have happened to pass by, taken pity on him, and healed him? But then he remembered that he was locked in the boss room, which ruled out the possibility of anyone helping. Akira checked his status to confirm that he didn't have any regeneration skills. But then he discovered he had a new skill, and it had a strange name. Good luck. This wasn't a completely unfamiliar skill to Akira. In fact, he had hoped to get this skill sooner. If he'd had it before, he might have discovered the plot to assassinate Commander Saran and could have prevented it. Akira's threat detection skill notified him that a danger was approaching. He looked around but didn't see anything at first. However, his skills had never been wrong, so he trusted them and decided to take a closer look. Thanks to that careful look, Akira managed to dodge a slime falling from above. It wasn't just his threat detection skill that was active. Akira's present sense skill also made him clearly feel that someone was nearby. But, just like with the slime, he didn't see anyone at first. Deciding to start with what he knew, he decided to defeat the slime before worrying about anything else. The slime made a lot of noise and moved around a lot. But Akira had faced worse enemies and wasn't fazed by this monster. The slime tried to attack him by launching a part of its goo at him, but it was too slow to hit him. Akira easily dodged and went straight for the monster, slashing it with a single swift strike of his blade. Good enough for a warm-up, he thought to himself. Akira prepared to move on, but as soon as the slime was destroyed, he noticed a clear figure inside. Wait, that's a person. Only Akira could have discovered this in the deepest part of the dungeon. It was a girl with long, pointed ears and a very beautiful face. Akira remembered enough from Commander Saran's stories to recognize that this was an elf. From what he knew, elves loved nature and sacred trees, and they despised humans for frequently cutting down forests. Elves also rarely left the forest continent, so Akira wondered why an elf would wander so far from her homeland. These questions couldn't answer themselves, and he couldn't just leave her there. So Akira decided to wait patiently until the elf girl woke up. Akira sat down to wait for the elf to wake up, not knowing how long it would take. Waiting around without doing anything was unusual for Akira. His life was usually filled with events, learning, and training, so waiting might offer him a fresh perspective. Still, Akira told himself to be patient, but it wasn't long before he started to get bored and decided to find something to do while he waited. Akira remembered he had a skill from the beginning called Eye of the World. He had never tried using this skill and didn't know what it could do. This might be a good time to test it. Eye of the World was a skill that allowed the user to see the entire truth of the world. The user could also adjust the range of vision. Akira decided to try using the skill, but as soon as he activated it, his body couldn't handle it. His head throbbed as if it were about to split in two. Akira saw many things, but he couldn't maintain it for long. So he was forced to cancel the skill before it harmed his body. Akira realized that some of his skills couldn't be used continuously, especially Eye of the World. After reading carefully about the skill, he discovered that he could adjust its range of vision. This made him wonder if he could control it better on his next try. But before he could try the skill again, Akira noticed something else. The elf he had just saved was waking up. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon in the city, Asahina Kyosuke, a samurai, entered a strange room and began to destroy the crystals inside, completely unaware of his actions. It seemed he was being influenced by the king and princess. Back in the dungeon, the beautiful elf had regained consciousness. Akira rushed to her side. The first thing he did was check if she was physically okay. The elf confirmed that she was perfectly fine. Next, Akira offered her some food, figuring that after so long inside the slime, she must be very hungry. Just as he expected, the elf was very hungry and quickly took the food from his hand. However, what Akira didn't expect was that after eating, the elf ran off and hid behind a nearby pillar. Akira wondered if she was afraid of him. Feeling like he was trying to earn the trust of a wild animal, he brought another piece of meat to lure her closer, and since she was still very hungry, the elf gave in and came out to get the food. With this exchange, Akira felt that he had built a certain level of trust. Now that she seemed to trust him more, Akira decided to ask her why she was in the slime. The beautiful elf replied that she didn't know how she ended up in there, but even if she did, it wasn't something she wanted to talk about. Akira found that reasonable and had no problem with her not wanting to share more. As he looked at her again, Akira noticed something strange but surprising. Perhaps because he had activated the Eye of the World skill right as she woke up, he could now see her status screen very clearly. From her status screen, Akira learned that the beautiful elf's name was Amelia Rosaquartz of the High Elf race. From what he had heard, High Elves were like the royalty of the elf race. But what caught his attention even more were her impressive stats, especially her magic power, which was described as immeasurable on the status screen. What did that even mean? And as if Akira hadn't had enough surprises for one day, he realized that Amelia also possessed the skill Eye of the World. This special skill was supposed to be extremely rare, yet by some coincidence he met another person who had it in the depths of the dungeon. Because she also had this skill, Amelia could see Akira's status screen, including his name and basic information. She didn't hide this fact as she called him by name and asked why he was in the dungeon. Akira replied that he was here to raise his level. After that, an awkward silence stretched between them. Looking closer at Amelia, Akira noticed that she had white hair and red eyes. Very different from most other elves who usually had blonde hair and blue eyes. Akira tried to break the awkwardness between them by asking Amelia about her future plans, whether she intended to return to the Elven continent. However, Amelia surprisingly gave a bold reply, stating that she planned to stay with Akira. The young man hadn't expected this answer at all and told her about his plan to return home after clearing the dungeon. Amelia turned her face away and told Akira that he no longer had a place in the human castle. This response shocked Akira, and he immediately asked what she meant by that. Amelia pointed out that they shared the same eyes, and therefore Akira should understand why he no longer had a place there. Akira felt that she was talking about the Eye of the World skill, but perhaps his level was still too low to truly understand her meaning. Amelia replied that he didn't understand because he had rejected those eyes. Before Akira could ask more to understand better, she said she was tired and needed to rest. Akira had no choice but to let Amelia rest, but he couldn't stop thinking about what she had said. Before going to sleep, Akira expanded the range of his threat detection skill to include the area around Amelia, ensuring she was also safe. What a thoughtful gentleman. Meanwhile, Amelia was pondering the words she had spoken to Akira. She knew that those words didn't just apply to Akira, but to herself as well. She also had nowhere to return to. While lost in her sad thoughts, Amelia felt a warm breeze touch her skin on the cold floor. Akira had used his daily life magic to create a warm breeze for her. She realized that whether he was Vlad or Akira, he might be a kind person after all. He had taken better care of her than anyone in the elven village. Even her own sister had rejected her. Amelia recalled the moment she looked into Akira's eyes and said he was from another world. She wondered what kind of world Akira came from, and what the people there were like. Meanwhile, at the human castle, Tsukasa was trying to rally the humans and propose a plan to defeat the Demon King, hoping to persuade them to join him in the battle. However, most of the people mocked Tsukasa, while others were surprised that he would volunteer to leave in this chaotic situation. It hadn't been long since Commander Saran was killed, an act everyone believed was caused by Akira. Tsukasa remained calm, as he knew most of the insults came from the effects of the curse. The purpose of the curse was to prevent people from cooperating with each other. Even so, the taunts were starting to get on Tsukasa's nerves. The king and princess were clearly doing everything they could to defeat Tsukasa, but he declared that he had no intention of giving up. Tsukasa was determined to leave the castle even if he had to go alone. Just as he was about to leave in frustration, someone from the crowd suddenly volunteered to join him. It was the samurai, Asahina Kyosuke. It seemed all it took was for one person to step up, because right after, 4 others, including Ueno, quickly expressed their desire to fight the Demon King with Tsukasa. Tsukasa announced that their departure was certain, regardless of whether the king agreed or not. He ordered everyone to quickly disperse, pack their things, and leave the castle before they could be stopped. Meanwhile, a guard was secretly watching Tsukasa's group from a back wall. He didn't intervene, simply returning quietly to report to his master. The new group of warriors, led by Tsukasa, succeeded in escaping the castle. Strangely, there was no resistance at the gate, which they found a bit odd, but they figured they were probably just lucky. Tsukasa needed to confirm something, so he asked why they decided to come with him. Ueno pointed out that perhaps all 6 warriors were now free from the curse's influence. They didn't know exactly how the curse was broken, but perhaps Asahina knew something. Asahina recounted the story of how he found himself in a room and destroyed 6 crystals with his katana. The 6 crystals might have symbolized the 6 current warriors who had been freed from the curse. However, this was just a theory. There were still many unanswered questions, such as what had compelled Asahina's body to destroy those 6 crystals. They examined the katana to see if it was a cursed item, but there were no signs of anything wrong with the weapon. It was a pure white katana named Hakuryu. Since they were still near the city, the brave warriors decided to press on and deal with the questions later. Meanwhile, the guard who had been watching Tsukasa's group had now returned and was reporting to his master. Fortunately, the master the guard reported to was the vice commander, not the king. From the report, it seemed the king still knew nothing of Tsukasa's movements. The vice commander was relieved, as this meant he had bought more time for Tsukasa. He hoped that the group of heroes would make good use of that precious time. Meanwhile, Tsukasa was approached by one of the 6 warriors who wanted to better understand the overall strategy for defeating the Demon King. In response, Tsukasa proposed a meticulous and calculated approach, stressing the importance of tackling each challenge systematically and carefully. He emphasized that their immediate goal was to escape the dangerous forest and move far away from the territory controlled by the cruel king. Tsukasa advised everyone to be extremely cautious, avoiding any reckless actions that could endanger their safety or hinder their progress. Meanwhile, Asahina Kyosuke delved deep into his memories, recalling the memories he shared with Akira and Tsukasa over the years. The 3 of them had been classmates since kindergarten, but the relationship between Tsukasa and Akira had always been tense. Akira, known for his mysterious nature, had a strange ability to disappear before anyone could even see him. This was often mistaken for aloofness or even hostility. Kyosuke had noticed that Tsukasa disliked people who didn't acknowledge his presence, which was exactly what Akira often did. Kyosuke still clearly remembered a surprising encounter with Akira while he was working at a construction site. Akira's discomfort was obvious, likely stemming from the surprise of Kyosuke recognizing him. The situation was a bit ironic, as Kyosuke himself hadn't expected Akira to remember him. However, the chance encounter led to a heartfelt conversation. Kyosuke reassured Akira that having part-time jobs didn't violate any school rules in case Akira was worried about potential consequences. As it turned out, Akira's worry wasn't about being reported, but about hiding his secret job from his friends. Their friendship quickly blossomed when they discovered a common bond. They both had younger sisters, and by coincidence, their sisters were best friends with each other. Akira and Kyosuke's bond extended beyond the school grounds, and they began spending more time together outside of class. However, their peaceful companionship was abruptly cut short when they were drawn into a strange world. Unjust accusations were hurled at Akira, leaving Kyosuke's heart heavy with sorrow and regret. He deeply regretted not being able to help when the unfair crowd labeled Akira a monster. Ever since setting foot in this unfamiliar world, Kyosuke hadn't had a single chance to talk to Akira. Regret gnawed at him, knowing he should have tried harder to establish a line of communication with his old friend before these unfortunate events unfolded. To make matters worse, Kyosuke was further burdened by the impression he might have left on Akira, having become part of the crowd that believed him to be a guilty murderer. He wondered if his actions had affected their friendship, and if Akira resented him for not standing by his side when it mattered. These thoughts intensified Kyosuke's anguish, making him yearn for a chance to redeem himself. Although their friendship began with a simple and pure connection through their younger sisters, their current circumstances had thrust them both into a much more complicated situation. Kyosuke longed for an opportunity to correct his past misjudgment and bridge the emotional gap that had grown between him and Akira since their arrival in this mysterious world. As Kyosuke was lost in his recollections, Tsukasa suddenly interjected with a curious tone, eagerly asking about Kyosuke's motivation for joining the hero's dangerous journey. With a determined glint in his eye, Kyosuke revealed that his main goal was to reunite with Akira. This declaration elicited a surprising reaction from Tsukasa, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. However, Kyosuke was unfazed by the reaction. He went on to remark that Akira and Tsukasa shared many notable similarities. This assertion seemed to bother Tsukasa even more, and the urgency in his desire to end the conversation quickly became apparent. Although he held no ill will towards Akira, Tsukasa couldn't deny the resemblance between them. Despite Tsukasa's subtle signals to stop, Kyosuke remained oblivious. He persisted, emphasizing the burdens that both Akira and Tsukasa carried, though the nature of these burdens was very different. One held it within, while the other faced it alone. Both tried to endure the pressure from others. Returning to the scene within the intricate labyrinth, Amelia and Akira were locked in a fierce battle with a massive and terrifying foe. Amelia's swift and skillful movements proved crucial, allowing her to quickly defeat the fearsome monster. She activated her gravity skill, pulling the flying beast down to the ground, where it met its end. A wave of relief washed over Akira as he witnessed firsthand that Amelia was not the burden he had initially thought her to be. After the gruesome battle, the two took a break, recovering their strength and sharing a much-needed meal. In this moment, they set aside the horrors that surrounded them. Before starting their meal, Akira took a moment to pray, a custom from his world. Amelia, curious about this ritual, decided to mimic Akira's gesture, clasping her hands in prayer and asking if she was doing it right. Amelia's curiosity piqued her interest in Akira's customs, and she began to seek more information about his personal life. Amelia went on to ask Akira about his family and his closest friends. Akira, in a rare moment of vulnerability, opened up to Amelia and shared details about his past. He grew up in a single-parent household, with his mother and younger sister as the pillars of his life. His father had abandoned them when Akira was about 10 years old, leaving behind the burden of caring for a frail mother and 2 children. His father had no intention of caring for an ailing wife and 2 children, and so he left. To make ends meet, Akira had to work multiple part-time jobs while keeping up with his studies. Recently, his sister had volunteered to help out, lightening the load on Akira's shoulders and giving him more time at home. Akira's story was touching, filled with emotion and resilience. In response, Amelia shared that she also had a younger sister. It seemed like everyone in this story had a younger sister. Amelia's sister excelled in every area, from beauty to diverse skills. Amelia, however, carried a sense of insecurity when comparing herself to her sister, whom she saw as nearly perfect. Akira expressed his skepticism about this, suggesting that spending time with people who seem flawless might not be as interesting as one might think. He compared it to his relationship with Tsukasa, highlighting the appeal of people with weaknesses and flaws, those who don't hide behind a facade of perfection. During their conversation, Akira suddenly expressed a craving for rice, which surprised Amelia. She informed him that rice also existed in their current world, much to Akira's surprise and excitement. She also revealed that the first hero had established a nation called Yamato, which shared many similarities with Akira's original world. The possibility of visiting Yamato ignited a spark of hope in Akira. However, he was well aware that he had to focus on his primary goal at hand, increasing his level and avenging the fallen Commander Saran. Amelia, ever a steadfast source of encouragement, assured Akira that he already possessed great strength, and that in her eyes he was already among the strongest people she had ever met. Akira acknowledged the reality of his own power, recognizing that he possessed formidable abilities, even without relying solely on his eye-of-the-world skill. Still, he was keenly aware that his current strength was not enough to complete his mission and bring justice for Commander Saran. To achieve his goal and overcome the challenges ahead, Akira had to relentlessly strive to reach level 100, pushing his limits to become stronger and unlock his true potential. Driven by his pursuit of mastery and swordsmanship, Akira had once embarked on a daring quest to conquer a dangerous floor. However, his efforts proved more difficult than expected, leaving him facing frustration and a sense of stagnation. After he expressed his difficulties, his supportive companion, Amelia, decided to help him. She used her formidable magical abilities to skillfully seal Akira's skills for a short time, preventing him from accessing the powers he usually relied on. In a swift and masterful display of magic, Amelia astonished Akira with her speed and proficiency. To both their surprise, Amelia, with her keen senses, detected an approaching threat from above. A massive monster with menacing wings soared through the sky, causing Akira's heart to race as he grasped the gravity of the situation. Realizing that his threat detection and sensory skills had been sealed, Akira was plunged into a state of uncertainty and vulnerability. The familiar means that helped him anticipate danger were now inaccessible, leaving him feeling insecure. Amelia, in a supportive voice, encouraged Akira to do his best, assuring him that she was ready to intervene if necessary. However, before Akira could formulate a detailed plan, the bat-like monster launched a relentless assault, exploiting Akira's weakened state and catching him off guard. Without his supporting skills, Akira struggled to defend himself and found it difficult to establish a solid defense, putting him at a disadvantage against the monster's continuous attacks. Although Akira recognized the creature from a previous encounter, he understood that this battle would be a much greater challenge without his usual skills to aid him. The monster possessed a unique trait that could deceive and confuse its opponent's senses, making it incredibly difficult to track and predict its movements. Akira faced the immense challenge before him, his mind consumed by the difficulty of the situation. However, Amelia remained his steadfast source of encouragement, urging him to persevere and stressing the futility of relying solely on his sealed skills and senses. Inspired by Amelia's wise words, Akira shifted his focus to an unaffected source of power, the mana flowing within his body. Realizing that sensing and controlling the flow of mana could enhance both his physical and mental strength, Akira saw a glimmer of hope in this arduous confrontation. With newfound determination, he began to explore the untapped potential of his mana control skills. Instead of trying to hide or blend into the shadows as usual, Akira chose a novel approach. He delved into the intricate art of creating replicas, using sophisticated streams of mana to craft an unbelievably lifelike copy of himself. When the bat monster charged toward the replicated image, it was fooled by the illusion's authenticity. Akira seized the golden opportunity and executed an incredibly swift and precise sword strike as fast as lightning, eliminating the threat in an instant. Brilliant move, Akira! Amelia stood there stunned by the creativity and ingenuity of Akira's extraordinary strategy. She couldn't take her eyes off his performance and was curious about how Akira had achieved such an impressive victory. Akira humbly attributed his success to his unique way of understanding and applying Amelia's guidance. He had combined his special mana control skills with his refined swordsmanship to overcome the challenge. Although the monster was dead, the mana construct that created Akira's replica remained standing like an independent entity. This achievement was not just impressive, but almost impossible. Typically, only mages with extraordinary magical abilities could create independent mana constructs. However, this skill was not entirely unprecedented. In history, it had been performed by the first hero, a legendary figure from the past. Akira and Amelia, with unwavering determination, continued deeper into the perilous dungeon. Undeterred by the challenges ahead, they persevered and finally stood before the imposing 80 floor. They were in awe of the vast space that stretched out before them, a floor larger than anything they had encountered before, its scale and grandeur dwarfing the previous levels. Before them was a colossal staircase that seemed to stretch endlessly, reaching for the heavens. Akira's sharp eyes scanned the surroundings, searching for any sign or clue of the formidable boss they would have to face. Curiosity filled his mind, urging him to uncover the hidden secrets of this floor. Where was the boss hiding? How could they detect its elusive presence? Then, as if in response to their yearning for answers and discovery, a magnificent sight unfolded right above them. A beautiful creature spread its wings and soared into the sky, its grace leaving them both in awe. Akira's gaze immediately shot upward, his heart skipping a beat as he beheld the majestic form of a dragon. Its vast wings were spread wide, casting a shadow over the dark landscape of the deadly dungeon. Akira's instincts immediately sensed danger, prompting him to act quickly. With a swift pull, Akira pulled Amelia out of the dragon's reach, ensuring her safety. The sight of this magnificent creature filled them with excitement, as they realized they were facing a true wonder of the mythical world. A dragon, the ultimate symbol of power and legend. Akira's mind raced, trying to devise a plan amidst the chaos and uncertainty. He quickly understood that a direct assault on the airborne dragon was futile, a dangerous act that could lead to disaster. Thinking quickly, Akira suggested that Amelia use her excellent gravity magic skills, harnessing that power to pull the dragon down to the ground and neutralize its aerial advantage. Despite being well aware of the potential risks, Amelia nodded in agreement, her eyes filled with determination and a hint of anxiety. She reminded Akira to be extremely cautious, as there was a risk that when the dragon was pulled down by gravity, he could get caught in the chaos and be crushed under the massive creature's weight. With a decisive nod, Amelia unleashed the full extent of her magical power, manipulating the forces of nature to create a powerful pull, dragging the dragon from the heights it once commanded. Seeing his opportunity unfold, Akira's heart pounded with adrenaline as he shot forward like a hunting falcon. The wind rushed past him, sharpening his senses, focusing them on a single objective: to land the decisive blow on the dragon's formidable defenses. Akira gripped his katana tightly, his eyes filled with determination. With intense focus, he quickly identified a weak spot and plunged his blade deep into the back of the dragon's neck, aiming to inflict maximum damage. A wave of exhilaration washed over Akira, confident he had delivered a critical blow that would cripple the dragon's ability to fly, even without Amelia's gravity magic. However, fate had other plans. The dragon, defying all expectations, showed incredible resilience and violently threw Akira from its back. Akira was flung violently into the air, tumbling chaotically. The ground rushed up to meet him, and he landed with a heavy thud, sending a cloud of dust into the air. Momentarily disoriented but undeterred, Akira quickly assessed his condition, making sure he wasn't seriously injured. Surprisingly, the dragon was still standing, though clearly weakened from the fierce attacks it had endured. Akira couldn't hide his surprise, admitting he hadn't expected the dragon to survive a critical stab to its neck. However, he found some solace in the belief that his attack had caused significant damage, impairing the dragon's ability to fly. Amelia, her eyes a mix of concern and astonishment, shared Akira's sentiment about the dragon's incredible resilience. Dragons, known for their indomitable strength, were not easily subdued by a single blade. This left Amelia feeling puzzled, as if something was wrong. A sense of unease crept into her mind, and Akira agreed, remarking that this dragon felt distinctly different from the chimera he had faced. Even after using the Eye of the World to analyze its attributes, Akira couldn't help but notice that the dragon's stats seemed incomplete, as if something was shrouded in mystery. They both stood in stunned silence as the dragon, with resolute will, advanced once more. Sensing the danger, Akira instinctively rushed forward, placing himself between the beast and Amelia, shielding her from any potential harm. Flames erupted from the dragon's mouth, forming a blazing inferno that threatened to engulf everything in its path. With lightning-fast reflexes, Akira skillfully dodged the fiery assault, his body moving with grace and agility despite the dire situation. Unfazed by the firestorm, Akira remained steadfast and determined to close the distance between himself and the dragon. He was confident his katana had the power to overcome any obstacle, while still acknowledging Amelia's concerns about the dragon's mysterious power and the unknown surrounding it. Akira held fast to his unwavering belief. He believed that as long as his blade was effective, there was no reason for him to hesitate in his pursuit of victory. Gathering every last bit of courage he had, Akira fearlessly executed a leap, his agile body soaring through the air as gracefully and fluidly as an acrobat. With unwavering precision, he descended, his katana finding the weak spot on the dragon's forehead with perfect accuracy. The clash of steel against dragon scales echoed through the air. Through a combination of dark magic and unyielding determination, Akira subdued the once mighty dragon. In a spectacular display of skill and power, the once dominant and overwhelming creature immediately began to succumb to the irresistible pull of gravity. It descended to the ground in a powerful display. But in that very moment, something miraculous happened. The dragon underwent an astonishing transformation, taking on a completely unexpected form, a sleek and elegant black cat. This sight left both Akira and Amelia stunned, their minds reeling as they tried to process the inexplicable change. The fierce, terrifying dragon had been transformed into a tiny cat, a feat that defied all logic and challenged their understanding of the world. To their surprise, the cat opened its mouth and spoke, its voice carrying a mixture of confusion and reluctant admiration. It remarked on its own defeat at the hands of a human, someone it had initially looked down on for his appearance. With a change in tone, the cat implied that no human had ever ventured this far, to the 80th floor, before. And so it had decided to have a little fun with them. Though surprised, Akira confronted the cat, feeling hurt by the comment about his appearance. However, the cat remained indifferent, its nonchalant attitude evident in every word. It casually dismissed Akira's concern and proceeded to deliver a message. The most important thing was that Akira was curious about the identity of the person who sent the message to him, as besides his classmates, he couldn't think of anyone else who knew about him. He immediately asked who had sent the message, which prompted the cat to reveal that the message came directly from the Demon King. Quoting the Demon King, the cat informed Akira that the Demon King was eagerly awaiting his arrival in the depths of the Demon Castle, located on the volcanic continent where the demons reside. Meanwhile, in another corner of the vast forest, Tsukasa and the other students had successfully navigated their long journey. At last they reached the great nation of Yamato. Akira was surprised by the news that the Demon King was waiting for him. He asked the cat for the reason behind this, but the cat admitted that it didn't fully understand the Demon King's intentions. It only knew that it was tasked with delivering this message. The cat explained that creatures like itself, magical beings, were created by the Demon King and served as his eyes, ears, and arms. Everything they observed and heard was relayed back to the Demon King, without exception. Confused, Akira questioned the cat further, asking if that meant the Demon King was the one who created monsters, as he had always believed it was the gods who did so. The cat quickly dismissed that belief, vividly recalling the day the Demon King personally created it. Akira reflected on Commander Saran's lessons, doubting the cat's claim, as Saran had taught him the opposite. However, Akira began to consider the possibility that the myths and knowledge passed down among humans might have been wrong from the start. Suddenly, the cat asked Akira to end its life. Startled, Akira asked the reason for this request. The cat explained that it had fulfilled its duty, and now that its transformation was undone, it saw no value in prolonging its existence. Instead of agreeing, Akira scooped the cat into a hug, expressing his unwillingness to harm the magnificent creature with its beautiful, silky fur. The cat, embarrassed and shocked, demanded that Akira stop. Amelia chimed in, telling Akira that it wasn't fair, as she also wanted to hug and play with the cat. Despite its pleas to stop, Amelia pointed out that if it truly hated this so much, why didn't it run away? The cat explained that it had to brace its body to its limits to resist the pull of Amelia's magic, and now it couldn't bear it any longer because Amelia and Akira had broken several of its bones. Therefore, the cat suggested they should end its life. However, Akira refused. The cat believed that if Akira spared it, it would become a laughingstock upon returning home. Akira seized this opportunity and suggested that, since the cat couldn't go home, it should come with them. The cat asked Akira if he understood the implications of what he had just said, and Akira confirmed that he did. The cat warned Akira that if it stayed with him, every action and word of Akira's would be reported to the Demon Lord. Akira reassured the cat that he knew that, but in return, the cat would have a place to belong. Akira also mentioned that the Demon Lord would eventually gather information on them anyway, and for him, he would learn more about Morrigan and get to play with the cat every day. The cat was stunned, admitting that it couldn't comprehend how the human brain worked. Amelia reminded the cat that regardless, they had won the battle, which meant they had the right to decide its fate. Therefore, the cat should not object anymore. The cat agreed to go with them, but warned that they shouldn't regret this decision. Then, Akira laughed and pointed out that the cat spoke so confidently despite being unable to move. As Akira tried and failed to find an exit on the dungeon floor, he remembered that, unlike this time, whenever he defeated a monster, a door or staircase to the next floor would appear. The cat explained that there was no exit, as the dungeon refuses to let the floor's boss survive. The dungeon created by the Demon Lord had a will of its own to prevent any monster from escaping. The cat asked Akira what his next move would be, and whether he would change his mind and kill it. It clarified that not only the exit but also the entrance would remain sealed until it died, and they risked starving to death if they continued this way. However, Akira told the cat that even if killing it would make things easier, he would still choose to take it with them. Amelia added that it was too early to give up. Akira asked if Amelia had found a way for them to escape, and she replied yes, but proposed that they had to name the cat first. Akira was confused as to why Amelia wanted to name the cat, But the cat quickly realized that Amelia wanted Akira to make a covenant with it, in which they would become master and servant. Akira didn't really understand what a covenant was. So Amelia explained that it was a contract that binds a human soul to a monster's. She added that usually only demonkin could control monsters, but there were also some humans who had a strong affinity with them. The first hero created this bond through a ritual called a covenant. The cat realized that Amelia wanted Akira to become its new master, in order to free it from its duty as the floor's monster boss. Amelia confirmed this and believed that, since Akira could control his mana like the first hero, he was also capable of doing it. However, the cat warned them that the covenant would not happen unless both the namer and the named agreed. Once the covenant was established, it would last until both of them died, unless they both decided to end it. They would always know each other's location and could communicate telepathically. If one of them died, the other would also die shortly after. Akira tried to process what he had just heard, but the cat interrupted his thoughts, saying that most normal humans would hesitate after learning that they would both die together. The cat also mentioned the strange mana it detected from Akira and claimed to sense it just by being near him. It then asked Akira if he was even human. Akira replied that he wasn't so sure anymore and wondered if he had stepped into the world of monsters. This took the cat by surprise, and it wondered if normal people described themselves that way. Giving up on trying to understand Akira, the cat asserted that no matter the situation, it was more convenient for it to stay this way, as it couldn't face the Dark Lord again after losing to a human child. The cat extended its paw towards Akira, and Akira took it. He informed the cat that he was Oda Akira, who would become its master, and gave it a name. In return, the cat promised to always be by his side, no matter where he was, and they pledged to be together until death parted them. Akira decided to name the cat Yoru, inspired by its fur, which resembled a beautiful night sky. Yoru cherished the name and remarked that it was an excellent choice. It accepted the name and once again vowed to serve Akira for the rest of its life. Akira and Amelia warmly welcomed Yoru to their team. Telepathy is a special ability that allows two individuals to communicate with each other using their minds, instead of spoken words. Amelia, with her sharp observation, noticed a faint symbol on the back of Akira's hand. Immediately, she remarked that the mark was very similar to the one on Yoru's forehead. Yoru, using its telepathic powers, went on to explain to Akira that the symbol on his hand was proof that their souls were now connected. This pact allowed them to communicate mentally. Curious, Akira asked Yoru if its connection to the Demon Lord still existed, now that he had become Yoru's partner. Yoru confirmed that its bond with the Demon Lord would always remain intact. Akira then wondered if his new pact with Yoru might provoke the Demon Lord. Yoru reassured him that the Demon Lord wouldn't mind, suggesting that Akira should consider himself its second master. Although still doubtful, Akira sought confirmation for this arrangement, and Yoru responded with unwavering confidence and encouragement. Meanwhile, in the midst of their conversation, a sudden and brilliant circle appeared, catching Amelia's attention and causing her to inform them of the strange event. Yoru told Amelia that her plan had succeeded, because now that it was under Akira's control, the dungeon no longer recognized it as the monster boss, and the path to the next floor was finally revealed. Akira noticed a difference in the exit on this floor compared to the previous ones. Instead of stairs or a door, there was a glowing circle. Amelia explained to Akira that this circle was a magic portal, capable of transporting anyone who stepped into it to a desired location. Curious, Akira asked Amelia what would happen if multiple people entered the circle at once. Amelia clarified that the circle would only choose one person's destination, and everyone would be transported there. Suddenly, Akira realized that this magic circle was similar to the one that had appeared in his classroom. He wondered if this circle was the same one, and if anyone in his class had wished to come to this parallel world. Akira believed it was possible, as many of his classmates were unhappy with their daily lives, and might have dreamed of escaping to another world. Amelia interrupted Akira's train of thought by saying she was hungry. Meanwhile, Akira's classmates, who had ventured into the country of Yamato, were having a wonderful time, enjoying various Japanese dishes similar to what they had eaten in their own world. They seemed to have cleaned themselves up and changed their clothes. Tsukasa asked Asahina and Suda if they could meet up after they finished eating. He explained that he was looking for a book in Yamato. The other students looked at each other with confused expressions, so he assured them that he wasn't asking them to buy it. He said that there was a lot they didn't know about Morrigan, and if they hadn't met a kind merchant in the forest who guided them, they might have gotten lost. Asahina agreed with Tsukasa and realized how foolish they had been not to suspect anything when they were forbidden from entering the castle library. Tsukasa added that they didn't have much money in this new world, and they needed to learn how life worked in Morrigan. Asahina told Tsukasa that if he planned to leave the city, he wanted to join him in searching for the book, as it would be easier to cooperate in this new world. Tsukasa fell into thought, his silence showing his desire to team up with Akira. However, he was aware that Asahina might not approve of what he was about to do. Regardless, once his preparations were complete, Tsukasa's plan was to head to the continent where the demon lord resided. He asserted that without Akira, he himself was the true hero, and therefore he wouldn't wait for Akira or follow in his footsteps. His main goal was to quickly defeat the demon lord and ensure everyone's safe return to their world. During their discussion, Tsukasa suggested that if the three boys were to leave the city, they should return to the Hatagoya first, as their laundry would be dry by then. Tsukasa suggested they head to the port together. He went on to propose that after their meal, they should form their own party. As Tsukasa slurped a spoonful of ramen, he wondered if Akira was eating properly and wished for his strength. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Akira and Amelia were sharing a meal. Akira informed Amelia that the absence of stairs and the appearance of the magic circle indicated that the 80th floor was the final level of the labyrinth. Yoru pretended not to understand what Akira was saying, but Akira reminded Yoru that it used to be the boss of this place and should have some knowledge. Yoru explained that everything depended on the labyrinth's will, but if they went through the circle, they would be transported to their desired location. Akira mentioned a strange feeling about the 80th floor and believed that while they had explored most of the labyrinth, they hadn't reached the 100th floor area yet. He urged them to continue their journey until they found it. Yoru was surprised and asked if Akira was aiming to reach the 100th floor of the labyrinth. Akira replied that it was the last thing Commander Saran had wished for. This revelation shocked Yoru, who clarified if they were talking about Saran Misre. Akira confirmed it and asked Yoru if it knew Commander Saran. Yoru explained that they had known him for a long time and wondered if Saran, who had been at the main temple, had come to the labyrinth. Akira confirmed this, and Yoru asked if Saran was dead. Akira revealed that he had been killed, the motive being revenge. Akira expressed his desire to seek justice for those who killed Saran. Unbeknownst to him, this desire for revenge had awakened an intense bloodlust and a formidable intimidation skill within him. This sudden transformation affected Amelia, making it difficult for her to breathe. In a panic, she called out to Akira, telling him that he was causing her pain. Upon hearing her plea, he quickly regained control of his emotions and suppressed the overwhelming bloodlust. Yoru reflected that Akira's bloodlust had almost made him seem as if he had lost his humanity. Yoru acknowledged the strength of the main castle, but clarified to them that the challenges they faced in the labyrinth were contrary to what they might expect. It added that in some cases their blades, which were supposed to be very durable, ended up shattering, mainly due to the nature of the dungeon. Yoru warned Akira that if he relied solely on sword techniques, he would find himself in a dangerous situation in the labyrinth, which was filled with physically powerful monsters. Furthermore, Yoru emphasized that if regular swords proved effective, Akira could easily overcome the monsters using magic. Yoru advised him that if he entered the labyrinth's gate with just a sword, without tapping into the magical abilities hidden within him, his chances of victory would be almost impossible. Realizing this, Akira deduced that training only with a sword throughout the labyrinth would raise the difficulty to a level that could be considered hard mode. Amelia wondered if all labyrinths were like the one they were in. Yoru clarified that each labyrinth had its own unique characteristics. To illustrate, Yoru mentioned the labyrinth located in the Owl Forest, which was the complete opposite of their current one, as in that labyrinth, magic skills were almost ineffective against the boss monsters there. Amelia seemed surprised by this revelation. Akira thought for a moment and realized there might be other labyrinths on different continents. He understood that if their goal was to reach the 100th floor, they might need to explore a labyrinth on another continent. With their decision made, they prepared to move forward. Yoru astonished them by shrinking down to the size of a normal house cat and leaping onto Akira's shoulder as he approached the entrance. Akira contemplated the possibility of returning to his original world, where his mother and sister might be waiting. However, he had a change of heart. realizing there were still important tasks he had to complete before he could even think about going back. Amelia grew worried about Akira's sudden emotional state, but her concerns were eased when he apologized and reassured her that he was perfectly fine. Gathering their courage, they stepped into the mesmerizing, glowing circle together. In the blink of an eye, a brilliant light enveloped them, and after just a few brief moments, they mysteriously vanished. Years ago, Amelia and her younger sister, Kurika, had stumbled upon a hidden room filled with old books and interesting artifacts. This storeroom was tucked away in a forgotten corner of their castle, with dusty shelves and creaky floorboards. Amelia and Kurika snuck into the storeroom full of excitement and mischief, knowing they were breaking the rules. Kurika discovered something interesting and called out to Amelia in excitement. In their excitement, they both made a bit of noise, but Kurika quickly covered Amelia's mouth, afraid their father would catch them. Kurika showed Amelia an old book she had found among the stacks. Inside, they found a beautiful illustration of two identical-looking girls, one with white hair and red eyes, while the other had blonde hair and green eyes. The two girls were captivated by the picture, and Kurika guessed that the girls in the picture were royalty, while Amelia deduced they were twin sisters, just like herself and Kurika, due to their striking resemblance. Kurika then spotted some strange writing on the picture of the girl with white hair and red eyes, and she wondered what exactly was written beneath the girl's image. She also noticed that the girl in the picture with white hair bore a striking resemblance to Amelia. Suddenly, a mysterious cloaked figure entered the room through the open door, wearing an enigmatic smile. The man in the cloak approached them, both intimidating and intriguing, and asked if they wanted to know the meaning of the words in the picture. The two girls were startled, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. Kurika asked about the stranger's identity, while Amelia, heedless of the worry, eagerly begged the stranger to reveal the meaning of the words on the page. Finally, unable to contain the suspense any longer, the man leaned in and revealed to them that the meaning of the word written on the picture was atonement. Back in the present, the glowing circle had successfully transported Akira and Amelia out of the dungeon and into a forest. Much to the surprise of them both, Amelia quickly recognized the familiar scenery and was shocked to discover that they had been transported to the Elven Kingdom. She wondered why they had ended up here instead of somewhere else, when all she had wanted was to go somewhere with Akira, not this specific place. Yoru noticed the sacred tree of the elves and informed Akira that they were in elven territory. Confused, Akira turned to Amelia for confirmation, asking if they had really returned to her homeland. However, Amelia, already panicking, ignored Akira and began muttering about the dire consequences of staying in this location. Suddenly, an arrow whizzed through the air, nearly hitting Amelia, but fortunately, Akira managed to pull her out of harm's way just in time. Recognizing the arrow's distinctive style, Amelia realized who the attacker was the moment she saw the archer, hiding in the bushes at a safe distance. Akira, oblivious to Amelia's joy at her return, decided to confront the attacker. The attacker tried to fire another arrow, but before he could do so, Akira swiftly appeared behind him, holding a knife to his throat. Akira warned him, stating that if he dared to make a single move, he wouldn't hesitate to slit his throat. Amelia finally caught up to them and recalled that the attacker's name was Liam Gladiolus, a member of an elite noble family. Liam scoffed contemptuously and remarked that he was surprised to see the princess, as he had been on an expedition when he stumbled upon a glowing circle, only to see Amelia emerge from it. He accused her of shamelessly abandoning her homeland. Amelia tried to explain, insisting that she hadn't abandoned her country. However, Liam cut her off and accused her of running away. He questioned if she truly believed that disappearing was for the best, but then dismissed the matter, saying it no longer mattered. According to him, there was no longer a place for her in the Elven territory because her sister, Kurika, was there to take care of everything. Liam called Amelia the Atonement Princess and informed her that her sister would be arriving soon, stressing that escape would be impossible. Akira, who was growing annoyed with Liam's rambling, quickly struck Liam on the head with the hilt of his dagger, knocking him unconscious. He ordered Yoru to grow larger so they could ride him and escape, taking Liam as a hostage. Yoru grew in size, and Akira noticed Amelia's hesitation as she prepared to climb on. However, he pulled her up anyway, and Yoru immediately began to accelerate to top speed. Amelia warned Akira that there were elves in the forest, so escaping would be impossible as they would surely give chase. In response, he assured her that if she could lead them to a more open area, he would be able to use his katana, which was difficult to wield among the dense trees. She expressed her understanding and led them toward a safe location outside the forest. After a while, they successfully broke free from the dense forest and entered an open field surrounded by the forest trees. Akira felt a sense of relief that they had finally escaped, just as Amelia had predicted. However, Amelia gripped Akira's arm and warned that, instead of escaping, they had walked right into an ambush. They were relentlessly cornered with no visible escape as countless bloodthirsty elf warriors surrounded them. The elven archers formed a circle around their targets, executing a double pincer ambush. To protect Amelia from danger, Akira ordered her to stay put on Yoru. He then asked Yoru for a favor, who seemed to anticipate what Akira needed and assured him he could handle it. When they saw Akira had captured Liam, the elven archers grew furious and demanded to know how he dared to treat Liam like that. They warned Akira that his life was on the line if he didn't release Liam immediately, attempting to negotiate. Akira proposed a deal. If he released Liam unharmed, they would have to let both him and Amelia pass. Princess Kurika Rose Quartz, Amelia's twin sister, finally appeared, declaring that any such negotiations were out of the question. She revealed that they had been relentlessly pursued while in hiding, but now that she had caught up with them, the criminals, she would not allow them to get away so easily. Akira questioned her about the accusation of them being criminals, asking if Amelia, as the princess of the land, wasn't exempt from that classification. Kurika retorted curtly, stating that he was completely clueless about what was happening in the kingdom. She then lowered her sleeve, revealing a particularly nasty scar. Kurika explained to Akira that the scar was from a wound caused by Amelia's deception, inflicted with some kind of medicine. Seeing Kurika's distress, some of the elves murmured sympathetically. Kurika pressed on, arguing that anyone who harms the royal family should be branded a criminal, a principle that applies even when the harm is caused by a sibling of the same royal blood. Furthermore, she declared that Amelia had intentionally harmed her with malicious intent. In response, Amelia shot back, denying Kurika's accusations. She clarified that while she did give Kurika the medicine, it had been tampered with and replaced with poison by someone unknown. Kurika challenged her, demanding proof to back up her claims and asking if Amelia was accusing her of making the whole thing up. Kurika then scoffed, dismissing any further argument and declaring that Amelia's very existence was a disaster for the country, because she was an unwanted child. Kurika stood before Akira and asked if he was the one responsible for bringing the criminal back to Elven lands. She expressed her gratitude, saying she should thank him for returning Amelia safely. Suddenly, Kurika locked eyes with Akira and activated her charm skill. Amelia desperately tried to warn Akira not to look into her eyes, but it was too late. The skill was already active. Charm was a skill that allowed the user to completely control a person's mind and emotions through eye contact. Kurika taunted Amelia for being too late, declaring that Akira's heart now belonged to her. She added that Amelia had no one left on her side. Furious, Amelia shot back that it wasn't true and demanded that Kurika apologize to Akira. She explained that Akira's heart belonged to her, and Kurika had no right to try and take it. Kurika was annoyed by Amelia's defiance. She said that this new attitude of hers was infuriating, especially since just moments ago Amelia had been the one trembling in fear. Kurika refused to do as Amelia asked and justified her actions, asking what was so wrong with using her own ability. She added that it was just too bad for anyone else, because once she used her charm skill, no one could escape it. And now Akira was hers. Akira finally spoke, asking since when he had become someone's property. Kurika was taken aback by his words, while Amelia was overjoyed to hear his voice. Kurika, looking surprised and confused, wondered to herself why her charm ability hadn't worked. She considered the possibility that Akira might be stronger than her, but refused to believe it. She insisted that she was stronger than him because she was a gold rank adventurer. Akira was impressed to learn that Kurika was a gold rank adventurer. He mentioned he'd read about them in the royal library, that there were only 4 gold rank adventurers in the entire world, and that it was the highest possible rank. Kurika began to confirm that she was indeed one of them. But she cut him off and called him a lowlife, saying that fools like him didn't know their place. She decided she would teach him a lesson with her sword. She asked if his name was really Akira, then drew her sword and proposed they have a duel. She said that if he lost, he would realize his own foolishness and give up on Amelia. Kurika found the situation amusing and proposed that if he won, she would promise to stop pursuing the 3 of them. She then asked Akira if he really thought he could defeat her. Amelia tried to warn Akira against it, but he reassured her that everything would be fine, adding that since Kirika was her sister, he wouldn't use his Yada no Kami sword. Kirika noticed Akira was preparing to fight without drawing his weapon, and asked if he was underestimating her. She insulted him again, saying she was speechless at his arrogance. Akira clarified with Kirika that the surrounding elves were only to observe and would not interfere in their fight. Kirika agreed and told him to come at her because she was ready to kill him. As she prepared for a decisive duel, she had no idea just how quickly it would all be over. As soon as the duel began, Akira unleashed an unbelievable combination of speed and power, leaving Kirika astonished and bewildered. Kirika barely had time to comprehend the situation before she felt an invisible force strike her. The impact was so sudden and powerful that she couldn't even finish her sentence. In the blink of an eye, she was launched into the air, sent flying by the strange power of the attack, and came crashing down in a world of pain. It wasn't just Kirika who was left stunned and disoriented. The onlooking elves, who had been eagerly awaiting a dramatic showdown, were also shocked by the sudden turn of events. Akira's swift movements left everyone in a state of disbelief, unable to process what had just happened before their very eyes. As Kirika groaned on the ground, Akira confidently declared his victory and asked if she was all right. Not waiting for an answer, he pulled Liam off of Yoru and tossed him to the ground. Then, Akira lifted Amelia onto Yoru before climbing on himself. Akira quickly made to leave, telling Kirika to keep her promise and not pursue them any further. Kirika, refusing to accept defeat, ordered her allies to ready their bows. Akira saw what was happening and protested, saying that this wasn't what they agreed to. The onlooking elves, believing Akira couldn't have won fairly, accused him of using some kind of trick. They started firing arrows from all directions, but Akira quickly conjured a shield of dark magic, destroying the arrows in the process. The elves were shocked as they watched Akira's dark magic obliterate their arrows. Kirika was stunned, saying she'd never seen magic capable of wiping out so many people at once. She realized this incredible magic must be a special skill he possessed. Suddenly, the elf king appeared, clearly furious, and demanded an explanation for what was happening. Kirika froze in shock and fear, completely stunned by her father's sudden appearance. Her eyes were wide, her body tense. Slowly, she managed to find her voice, stammering as she asked her father why he was here. She had believed he had urgent matters to attend to in a remote region. The king, with a grave and cold expression, replied in a heavy tone, explaining that an unforeseen situation had forced him to return to the palace. He stared at Kirika, waiting for an explanation for what had happened in his absence. Overwhelmed and unable to form a coherent response, Kirika continued to stammer, her words broken by anxiety. The king, having watched from a distance, revealed that he had seen Kirika challenge Akira to a duel, only to be defeated instantly by a single blow. Shame washed over Kirika, leaving her unable to say a word in her own defense. The king's authoritative voice continued, recounting the duel's unexpected outcome. To make matters worse, he revealed that her soldiers had then broken the agreement and launched a surprise attack from behind. The king's words cut into Kirika like a knife, leaving her ashamed and bewildered. Her face burned with humiliation. In a final warning, the king stated that such reckless actions were utterly unacceptable for a member of the proud royal family. Crushed by her father's disapproval, Kirika remained silent, unable to say a single word in her own defense. The weight of the situation hung heavy in the air, as the king's words underscored the gravity of Kirika's mistakes, leaving her to face the consequences of her misguided challenge. The king said he would ask her another question, and then asked what she was trying to do to her sister, Amelia. Kirika angrily denied that Amelia was her sister. In response, her father slapped her hard. The remaining soldiers tried to persuade the king not to be angry with Kirika, explaining that Amelia had treated Kirika very poorly. The king grew even more disappointed upon realizing that Kirika had even used her enchantment ability on the warriors. He ordered her to cease immediately and expressed his disappointment in her actions. Then the king approached Amelia and apologized for not having watched over her. However, the king asked Amelia if she truly wished to leave the country with Akira. Amelia couldn't find a proper answer for her father, so she chose to remain silent. The king said that she was not allowed to leave, as she still had duties to fulfill as royalty. He acknowledged that her freedom had been wagered on the match Kirika lost, but he had to go back on his promise. He proposed a new idea, saying he wanted Akira to fight one more time, and if Akira won, he would recognize him as king. Akira was shocked and asked the king if he really intended to fight him. But the king replied that Kirika would be the one to face him. Kirika questioned the reason for another battle, especially since she had already lost. The king explained that in the previous match, Kirika had underestimated her opponent, Akira. He pointed out that her carelessness and overconfidence in her own abilities had led to her defeat. However, he reassured her that she was the strongest swordswoman and suggested she fight in his stead. Kirika agreed to accept the challenge. The king then turned to Akira, revealing that he was initially considered an intruder in their country. Whether Akira would be set free would depend on the strength he displayed in the coming battle. After declaring his intention to return to the palace, the king ordered everyone to follow him. Akira thought to himself that the Elf King was a pain in the neck, but he also understood the reasoning behind his actions. Meanwhile, Amelia felt disheartened and mumbled to herself that her father truly didn't love her. Akira was surprised by her words, but Amelia explained that she felt that way because her father had given Kirika a chance for a rematch while ignoring her own wishes and desires. Amelia, with a sad expression, added that her father always seemed to favor Kirika in every situation. Akira, wanting to comfort her, tried to explain that he believed it was because Kirika was naive and innocent. However, before he could finish his sentence, Amelia suddenly cut him off. She insisted that the reason her father favored Kirika was because she felt she was an unwanted child, unloved and unwelcome by her parents. She tearfully revealed that she believed her very existence was a mistake and that her parents had never wanted her to be born. After some time, their journey brought them to the magnificent palace of the Elf Nation. Akira was stunned by the sheer size of the palace and the beauty of its interior. The vastness of the palace left him in awe, and he couldn't help but gaze at its magnificent furnishings. Noticing Akira's fascination, Amelia pointed out that all the members of the administration, the nobility, and the servants seemed to be strongly influenced by Kirika, as if they were still under her enchantment. Suddenly, the king of the Elf Kingdom appeared majestically and addressed the assembled crowd. He announced that the match between Kirika and Akira would take place before him, stressing the importance of the event. The crowd, seemingly under the influence of Kirika's charm, began to cheer and shout their support for her. The roars echoed in unison, creating an atmosphere brimming with excitement and anticipation. Akira approached Kirika and confronted her directly. He reminded her that the king himself had ordered her to release her enchantment, but Kirika feigned ignorance. She shot back at Akira, asking what he was trying to say. Noticing Akira hadn't drawn his sword, she wondered why he still hadn't unsheathed his blade. In response, Akira calmly explained that he would continue to use his katana without drawing it, asserting that he had no intention of using his sword against her. Unfazed by Akira's words, Kirika told him to do as he pleased, expressing her resolve to give it her all in the coming duel. The tension mounted as the king declared the start of the match. Wasting no time, Kirika immediately launched an attack, swiftly aiming her sword at Akira. In a surprising turn of events, her strike left a visible scratch on his face. Acknowledging Kirika's talent, Akira admitted that her swordsmanship was formidable. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he decided it was time to get serious. With a determined expression, he informed Kirika that he was ready to settle their conflict once and for all. Princess Kirika couldn't help but admire Akira, and not just for his fighting skills. She curiously asked him why he would accept another duel with her. Was Amelia really worth risking his life for? She concluded that Akira must love Amelia so much that he was willing to sacrifice himself for her. It was a good thing Akira was the only one in the palace with such feelings. The others really didn't care much for her sister. The mid-battle banter was fun, but Princess Kirika was now ready to resume the fight. She unleashed another strike, this time using wind-based magic. The sword attack was accompanied by a powerful gust of wind, making it difficult for the young warrior to dodge. It was no wonder she was so revered as a swordswoman in Elfland. Witnessing Kirika's seriousness in the match, Akira found it hard to believe the princess had actually been holding back that much power. He decided to put more power into the fight. The young warrior activated his shadow cloak skill, a powerful ability that seemed to have a mind of its own. And from that point on, the fight became a spectacle. With the sound of clashing blades and bodies weaving through the air, Princess Kirika seemed to control the match, continuously launching powerful attacks at Akira. Although the warrior could evade her strikes thanks to his skill, it was by no means easy. At some point, the tide began to turn in Akira's favor as he started to counter with a strike or two of his own. Princess Kurika, a seasoned and focused warrior, swiftly blocked Akira's blows with her sword. The fight became a spectacular sight to behold, with neither side gaining the upper hand. The onlookers, including the king, Amelia, and Yoru, watched intently as the princess and Akira repeatedly clashed. Back in the fight, a battle so thrilling no one dared to blink. Akira decided to experiment by combining physical effort with psychological warfare. He taunted Princess Kurika, saying she looked as if she was about to cry at any moment. Still, a game is a game. The princess remained unfazed. She fought frantically as if she had been waiting for this battle her whole life, and surprisingly, she didn't cry. Instead, she fought with a smile on her face, as if enjoying every moment. Akira went up and asked Princess Kurika directly if she truly hated her twin sister, Amelia. Princess Kurika didn't say she hated Amelia, but she admitted she was determined to hate her sister. What could that possibly mean? Akira took a wild guess and concluded that Princess Kurika hated Amelia because she was an unwanted child. Oh, someone's grasping at straws now. The princess shook her head at Akira's foolishness. This boy was all brawn and no brains. The story of being an unwanted child, according to Princess Kurika, was just an ancient myth. The reality was that long ago one of the twins would have been killed, but because elves had difficulty bearing long-lived children, the custom of killing precious offspring was abolished during Kurika's grandfather's time. This short story gave Akira a new perspective, but it still didn't explain why Princess Kurika constantly criticized Amelia for being an unwanted child, even though Kurika knew it was hurtful. It seemed a big reveal was coming. Princess Kurika admitted that it was easy to criticize Amelia because she didn't resemble anyone in the family, which made Kurika feel like an outcast. But on the contrary, Princess Amelia was no outcast at all. To be precise, Amelia was born into the legendary Miko profession. A Miko is a shrine maiden, and this profession means you are loved by the gods. As someone who possesses this, the world will bend in your favor whenever you wish for something. Being the twin of someone as beautiful as Amelia was hard enough, but for her to also be born a Miko was a real shock. That was the source of Kurika's pain. She was born the inferior sibling and didn't want to stay that way forever. Who was it that said the gods never make mistakes? Princess Kurika continued to recount her painful story. When her sister Amelia was born a Miko, she always received the love of the people and the gods. Showering a child with love might sound like a good idea, but when it comes at the expense of another child, especially a twin, perhaps you should reconsider. The princess lamented the consequences of her existence as Amelia's sister. With her silver hair and beautiful eyes, Amelia always received love, gifts, attention, and everything Princess Kurika desired. Kurika couldn't help but wish their birth order was reversed and she was the twin sister. If so, perhaps she would have been born the Miko and wouldn't have had to do all the things she'd done so far, including being cruel to Amelia. It sounds like Princess Kurika truly loves her sister, but let jealousy take over her mind. Come on, every villain has a sob story. Akira had listened patiently up to this point. The young warrior allowed the movements of his sword to ease the tension in the air. Everyone thought the battle was coming to an end, in a classic tale of an innocent who lost their way and became a villain. If that's what you were expecting, you're in for a shock. Princess Kurika looked at Akira and Amelia and saw only two people who didn't understand how she felt. The rage within her flared up stronger than ever. She drew her sword again and struck at Akira. Akira couldn't dodge in time, being distracted, managing only to block with his hand to avoid serious injury. The princess's sword sank deep into his flesh, and now Kurika had the upper hand in the fight. She seethed with rage, ready to capitalize on Akira's injured arm to press for victory. However, she was stopped by a call from a familiar voice. That voice belonged to Liam, the young man Princess Kurika was very close to. Liam called the princess's name and begged her to stop what she was doing. After all, she was only hurting herself. Princess Kurika was surprised that Liam would speak to her in such a way. But Liam didn't stop there. He went before Amelia, knelt respectfully, and asked her to forgive him and Princess Kurika for their discourteous actions. Akira was just as confused as everyone else. According to Amelia, everyone in the palace was under the influence of Kurika's enchantment. Did Princess Kurika help Liam snap out of it, or did he break free on his own? What had happened to make him act this way? At this moment, Princess Kurika felt more disappointed than angry. Even though everyone in the kingdom focused on Amelia, Liam had always acknowledged her efforts and care. She remembered the times Liam invited her to practice swords with him, always praising her determination and never forgetting to point out her progress. Yet, despite everything, Liam's loyalty had always been with Amelia. Liam's recent actions completely pushed Princess Kurika over to the other side, the dark side. She abandoned any remaining feelings for both Amelia and Liam. These two had to die. With both targets in her sights, the princess unleashed her strongest wind technique with her sword. Akira wasn't close enough to stop it, and even if he were, he was already badly injured. Princess Kurika's powerful wind technique was strong enough to knock the wounded Akira to the ground. Imagine what would happen to those the technique was aimed at. Amelia and Liam faced certain death, unable to stop the attack. Princess Kurika was sure she had the situation under control, but she hadn't counted on one member of the group. Yoru, the black cat. Yoru showed courage in the face of danger. From Amelia's perspective, she saw her cat leap from her arms and charge toward the attack. "Yoru, safety is over here!" She tried to call him back, but the cat seemed confident in his decision. Yoru told Amelia to hide while he carried out his plan. Then he began to grow in size. The black cat transformed into a large cat. He leaped straight into the gust of wind, but instead of being swept away by its powerful force, Yoru began to control and even push back against the wind. Princess Kurika recognized the cat and was surprised. This pet cat isn't half bad, she thought, but by now her rage was like a speeding train, hard to stop. With that fury, she intensified her attack, regaining the advantage. The wind pushed Yoru back a bit, but the black cat had no intention of giving up. After a standoff that seemed to last for decades, Yoru finally deflected the attack into the ceiling. The sudden shift in momentum caused Kurika to collapse to the ground, unconscious. Liam had the perfect solution that everyone in the palace needed. It was a plant that the king recognized as a sacred branch. According to the king, the sacred branch contained purification magic. Liam gave the branch to Amelia so she could work her magic. Amelia held the branch up and used her skill. After a while, the air began to clear and people's eyes started to open. The purification magic helped Princess Kurika regain consciousness, but it also broke her enchantment on the crowd gathered in the palace. Everyone in the crowd was surprised, not understanding where they were. They couldn't remember how they had gotten to this location, but they recognized it as the king's palace. So, out of respect for the Elf King, there wasn't much commotion in the crowd. The others were also healed by the branch. Seeing her magic was gone, Princess Kurika let her sword fall and slumped to the ground in despair. Akira approached from behind, sword in hand for safety. He informed her that it was over and she had lost, but Kurika already knew that. Still on the ground, the princess bowed her head as a single tear rolled down her cheek. Just one, then two, and in a matter of seconds, Kurika began to sob, wondering where she had gone wrong with her plan. She lamented her unfortunate fate, talking about how she had started to like Liam, who always acknowledged her efforts. She liked him and wanted him to like her back. Things were going smoothly with Liam, but then he was chosen as a candidate for her sister Amelia's fiancé. Akira's ears perked up immediately upon hearing that Liam was Amelia's fiancé. Calm down, young man. The story isn't over yet. Princess Kurika continued to lament, talking about how much she liked Liam and couldn't bear to have him taken from her. So, she decided to use her enchantment skill for the first time, before any of that could happen. Liam was enthralled, completely out of his mind, which shocked the Elf King. The young man had developed feelings for the wrong daughter. In the end, Princess Kurika got her way and married Gladius, the husband she had always dreamed of. Seeing how she could get what she wanted with her enchantment skill, Kurika began to explore other uses for it. Step by step, she started enchanting everyone in the castle, forcing them to obey her will. All Princess Kurika wanted was to take back everything her sister had stolen from her. Throughout all of this, Princess Kurika never realized where she had gone wrong. She insisted that she had done the right thing. However, Princess Kurika's story was interrupted by an authoritative voice. It was her father, the king, who looked his daughter straight in the eye and told her she was wrong. The man spoke audible words, but no one could quite understand what he was saying. The king clarified that when Kurika said Amelia had stolen everything from her, she was completely mistaken. The princess hissed. Even with the end so near, her father still felt no need to hide his favoritism for his first daughter. The preference was always there and perhaps always would be. The king looked at his daughter with eyes full of pain. He knew she had been through so much and understood the choices she had made. However, the king insisted that Princess Amelia had not stolen anything from her sister. He held Kirika's head in his hands and told his daughter he had something to confess. Another plot twist, I'm sure I'll take it in stride. The king promised his daughter that he had always loved her, from the time she was a little girl until this very day. But then something had happened when she was young. He had taken one of Kirika's memories. In the end, the one who had stolen something from the princess wasn't Amelia, but her own father, the king. Everyone, including Princess Kirika, was stunned by the king's confession. They didn't know what to make of it and needed more information to understand the situation. The Elf King apologized to his daughter, expressing his deep regret for taking one of her memories. He explained it was a bitter memory that she might not have been able to bear, but he was ready to restore it by removing his forgetting skill. He told her to brace herself, stressing that this memory would likely be painful. The king was hiding something important concerning her relationship with her sister. When the time came to free her from the shackles of forgetfulness, Kirika's mind was suddenly flooded with a stream of memories, taking her back to a precious moment in her past. She was a young girl, and the familiar face of Liam, her dear friend, appeared before her. The innocence of their conversation echoed through the years as Liam asked about Kirika's upcoming sword practice. A mischievous smile played on Kirika's lips as she begged Liam to keep this secret from her father and her sister Amelia. Looking ahead, Kirika felt this was going to be a very special sword practice. Even in her youth, she possessed a steadfast ambition that burned within her. She never hesitated to embark on challenging adventures in search of power, and this time, she was led down a seemingly endless staircase, winding deep into a menacing and mysterious dungeon. Whispers of a forbidden secret filled the air, luring Kirika deeper into its dark embrace. Unbeknownst to anyone, the deepest corners of the dungeon held a secret entrusted to her by a mysterious figure concealed beneath a hooded cloak. In the vivid tapestry of her restored memories, Kirika saw that mysterious figure placing a strange object in her hand, accompanied by cryptic instructions. This relic, encircled by an intricate frame, served an unclear purpose, but Kirika's determination and thirst for power propelled her forward with a swift and decisive move. She shattered the object's circular frame, unleashing a torrent of energy and unlocking its hidden potential. The mysterious figure assured her that the monsters on the surface paled in comparison to the fiends lurking in the heart of the dungeon, beckoning her with the promise of unprecedented growth and power. Kirika found herself drawn into a grueling battle against the formidable monsters the dungeon contained. Unfortunately, the monsters were too numerous, threatening to overwhelm her valiant efforts. In a desperate bid for survival, she was forced to retreat, retracing her steps up the perilous path to the surface via the winding stairs that had once led her down. With every step, her heart pounded faster, echoing the relentless pursuit of the footsteps closing in behind her. The unimaginable became reality as the dungeon's monstrous inhabitants shattered the boundaries of their confinement, defying the very laws that govern their existence. Amidst the chaos, the loyal and steadfast Liam appeared as Kirika's savior. Promises of aid from the royal guards and the Elf King himself offered a glimmer of hope in the face of impending doom. With urgency coursing through their veins, Kirika and Liam struggled to distance themselves from the approaching danger. Their hearts beat as one in a shared resolve. But Kirika's anxiety mounted as she realized the harm that innocent civilians might suffer, caught unwittingly in the crossfire. The air grew thick with impending danger as the relentless horde of monsters pursued them, cornering both Kirika and Liam. In a tragic turn of events, a monstrous creature seized the advantage, its claws piercing through Liam's fragile body. Kirika's scream echoed, a mournful cry of despair. But amidst the tragedy, an astonishing revelation unfolded. Liam, whose life had seemingly been extinguished, defied all reason and stood beside Kirika, holding her tightly in a comforting embrace. Confusion and disbelief warred in Kirika's mind. As she struggled to reconcile the memory of Liam's death with his miraculous revival, the Elf King intervened, dispelling the fog of uncertainty that clouded Kirika's thoughts. He confirmed a painful truth. Liam had indeed died on that fateful day, The weight of remorse settled heavily on Kurika's shoulders as she understood the scale of her transgression. In a final act of compassion, driven by a father's love, the Elf King used his unique power, the power of forgetting, to shield Kurika from the unbearable burden of her actions. He cradled her unconscious body, carrying her away from the source of her pain, hoping to protect her fragile heart from the depths of despair. Time would reveal a shocking truth. Amelia, Kurika's own sister, possessed the extraordinary power responsible for the destruction of the dungeon door. Her ability to manipulate gravity proved to be the essential tool in sealing the entrance, preventing any more monsters from escaping. As the royal soldiers pursued the escapees, Amelia's latent potential expanded even further, revealing the impressive resurrection skill that brought Liam back from the brink of death. In the face of tragedy, Amelia's true power manifested, far surpassing her previously understood limits of mere magic creation. Kurika stood frozen, her emotions teetering on the edge of overwhelming astonishment. The realization that her sister had performed such selfless acts, despite enduring years of mistreatment, sent her into a whirlwind of conflicting feelings. The Elf King, ever ready to take responsibility, admitted his own shortcomings, acknowledging that his intervention had inadvertently set Kurika on a path filled with suffering and heartache. The weight of this revelation was a heavy burden for Kurika to bear. The Elf King recognized his own weakness, aware that his actions stemmed from a father's love, a relentless desire to protect his daughter from unbearable pain. His heart ached as he witnessed Kurika's anguish, and he admitted that his misguided attempts to shield her had unintentionally led her to an even darker future. The realization dawned that he could no longer postpone the inevitable, and with a resolve tinged with remorse, he vowed to right his past wrongs. Akira intervened, directing Amelia's attention to her own abilities. He urged her to deactivate her Ice World skill, an extraordinary power she had unknowingly used when they first encountered each other. When the skill was turned off, Amelia's gaze shifted from the superficial layer of understanding provided by the status window, allowing her to truly perceive the world and engage in a genuine conversation with her family, especially with Kurika. Amelia's voice trembled as she admitted that she had always struggled to understand the desires and intentions of others. The praise she occasionally received through Miko's adulation only added to her confusion, leaving her yearning for a deeper understanding. In her search for clarity, she had placed unwavering faith in her world's eye skill, believing that delving into people's status windows would unlock the answers she sought. However, she now acknowledged the role fear played in her actions, a fear of the unknown that had held her back. In this shared moment, the two sisters cast aside their preconceptions and ran towards each other, arms outstretched in a long-awaited embrace. Tears mingled with smiles as apologies flowed freely, bridging the distance that had kept them apart for so long. The revival skill is the ability to bring the dead back to life, not to be confused with resurrection, which controls revived beings against their will. Kurika and her twin sister Amelia shared an emotional hug, tears mixing as they exchanged heartfelt apologies and regrets. Their faces were streaked with tears, reflecting the depth of the emotions they were experiencing. Amelia, curious to see Kurika's face without the influence of her world's eye skill, made a playful request. "Hey, can I see your face without my amazing skill?" Gazing directly at Kurika, she exclaimed with a gasp, "Wow, I can actually see you when I look into your eyes. I can feel your thoughts. It's like we're connecting on a whole new level." Their father, the wise Elf King, stood by, observing with a proud and gentle smile as he watched his daughters reconcile. Their bond was restored in peace and harmony. Even Akira, who usually maintained a stoic expression, couldn't help but crack a smile as he witnessed the heartwarming moment between the sisters. He reflected on how their fight had stemmed from their strong wills and their desire to stand on their own 2 feet. As he watched the scene unfold, memories of his own family flooded his mind. The Elf King's presence reminded Akira of his own father, who had left him and his family 7 years ago, leaving them to face many hardships alone. Seeing Amelia and her family reunited, a long-forgotten memory suddenly surfaced in his mind. One early morning, as Akira's father was getting ready, he was diligently making lunch for the family. Akira had watched in silence, realizing that his father had been caring for him, his sister, and his sick mother without any outside help. Suddenly, it dawned on Akira just how difficult it must have been for his father to balance caring for 2 children and an ailing wife. Determination welled up inside him, and Akira vowed to search for his missing father upon his return to Japan, hoping to find closure and understanding for their relationship. With the tension eased, the Elf King humbly apologized to Akira for his initial hostility and sincerely invited him to be an honored guest in the Elf Kingdom. Akira was delighted by the king's generosity and eagerly anticipated the warm welcome and delicious food that awaited him. It had been a long time since he had eaten a proper meal. With the tension cleared, Akira's mind began to drift into contemplation. He pondered the nature of his world's eye skill and how he, like Amelia, had both used it. The first time he activated the skill, he was bombarded with an overwhelming array of status windows, obscuring his view of the real world. But even in that chaos, he had caught a glimpse, an image of the Demon King slaughtering Tsukasa, his classmates, and witnessing the world crumble. That memory pierced his heart, fueling his determination to prevent that terrible future from happening. His thoughts also turned to Amelia's revival skill, a potential lifeline if all their efforts to change the future failed. He realized he might need to rely on it if the worst came to pass. As if in response to those thoughts, Amelia found him on the balcony, saying she had been looking for him since dinner. Akira's heart skipped a beat as he realized she had been worried about him. He was happy to see she had reconciled with her family and was grateful for her presence. The words he wanted to say to her got stuck in his throat, his emotions swelling powerfully. Amelia, sensing Akira's internal struggle, encouraged him to look up at the stars. Caught off guard by her heartfelt revelation, Akira's mind raced, searching for the right words. Before he could gather his thoughts, Amelia spoke again, assuring him that she believed she could help him and wanted to accompany him on their journey. Their intimate moment was interrupted when Kurika burst into the room with a loving cry and threw her arms around her sister. Playfully, Kurika suggested they share a bed and renew their sisterly bond. Realizing it had been a long time since they'd had such close moments, she apologized for barging in and interrupting the moment Akira and Amelia were sharing, stressing the importance of sisterhood. Akira found himself siding with Kurika, encouraging Amelia to accept her sister's offer, just for one night. He teased, saying he would continue to enjoy the cool breeze while they reconnected. Amelia finally relented, agreeing to her sister's request. As Amelia left, Akira took a moment to compose himself. He had wanted to express his feelings to Amelia more clearly, but found himself tongue-tied in the moment. It seemed he had lost his way as soon as she had agreed to join them without hesitation. Realizing that dwelling on his feelings wouldn't help, he decided it was best to get some rest. After all, a good night's sleep could bring clarity and a fresh perspective. Meanwhile, Yoru, the ever-observant cat, watched the entire scene with a mischievous glint in its eyes. It thought Akira was being an idiot, unsure of his own feelings and completely clueless. As the morning light dawned, the Elf King offered to extend their stay a little longer, opening up the possibility for more exploration and adventure in the magical kingdom. However, Akira stood firm in his decision, driven by his determination to change the future. Amelia reassured her father that she would return safely, their bond now stronger than ever. The Elf King, his paternal instincts kicking in, insisted on sending guards as escorts to the border, ensuring them a safe journey. Sensing the king's genuine concern and appreciating his efforts, Akira fully agreed with heartfelt gratitude and promises exchanged. Akira and Amelia mounted the magnificent Yoru, ready to depart, bidding farewell to the Elf Kingdom and the painful memories they were leaving behind. Tsukasa and his brave companions had proven their worth by conquering a series of incredible quests with astonishing speed and skill. As they proudly approached the counter to present their completed quests, the woman behind it couldn't help but be amazed at their unparalleled efficiency. With eyes wide in astonishment, she showered them with praise, marveling at their achievements and reiterating the details of their well-deserved promotion. Of course, she also stressed that they needed to leave their signatures in the registry, a minor formality amidst the celebration. Now adorned with prestigious gold badges, the brave adventurers couldn't help but bask in their newfound glory. They exchanged playful banter, reminiscing about their most memorable battles and sharing celebratory high-fives in the cheerful atmosphere. One of the group joked that the surface-level monsters they encountered were like harmless kittens compared to the winding challenges they had faced in the dungeons. Tsukasa, however, disagreed, yearning for opponents who could match their skills to truly test their abilities. It would be a shame if leveling up was as swift as their lightning-fast victories. However, an unfortunate situation arose when they found themselves in the middle of Yamato, a land devoid of dungeons to conquer. Asahina and Nanase searched and investigated tirelessly, leaving no stone unturned in their hunt for Akira Oda. Unfortunately, their efforts bore no fruit, and Akira remained an elusive phantom. Tsukasa, with his strategic mind, suggested leaving Yamato, as it seemed to hold no more secrets for them. Asahina, ever hopeful, was hesitant to dismiss the possibility of Akira's presence. Tsukasa pondered how to convince his steadfast friend, but to his relief, Asahina agreed, believing Akira had already moved on. Asahina declared it was time to hit the road and embark on their next adventure, with everyone in agreement. Tsukasa, the indomitable hero, unfurled a map, illuminating their path for all to see. He pointed out the route from the land of Redis to the human-filled continent of Brute. However, the dangers of Yamato still loomed, with a king who might be pursuing them, sending troops in search of the brave adventurers. Fortunately, Yamato had a hidden gem, a bustling seaport that would be their escape. They stood at a major crossroads, but Nanase, with a hint of hesitation, reminisced about the incredible Japanese cuisine Yamato was famous for. How could they possibly resist such tantalizing flavors? Luckily, their creative minds devised a plan. Suda, the group's culinary artist, stepped up, offering his skills in preparing traditional Japanese dishes. Even without the usual spices, the prospect of stocking up on necessary ingredients for their journey filled their hearts with excitement, and they eagerly anticipated a fun shopping spree. Asahina and Tsukasa, the thoughtful pair of the group, engaged in a private conversation contemplating their next destination. Asahina questioned which continent they should head to next, and Tsukasa, the master strategist, suggested aiming for the kingdom where the powerful demon king resided. However, they realized that to undertake such a perilous quest, their levels needed to be raised and their worn-out weapons and armor were in desperate need of an upgrade. Tsukasa was filled with determination as he resolved to find a bustling city where they could shop for new equipment and repair their battle-worn gear. With a mischievous glint in his eye, he declared he had the perfect place in mind, a legendary haven of commerce and adventure. Meanwhile, in a desolate and gloomy swamp, shrouded in mystery, a figure emerged from the misty depths, their body cloaked in a mysterious robe. A mischievous smile played on their lips as they savored the newfound freedom coursing through their veins. Their first order of business was to stir up trouble and reduce everything to rubble. With wicked glee, they reveled in their sinister intentions, ready to unleash chaos upon an unsuspecting world.